Pedia is also known as sexual equality or equality of the sexes, the state of equal ease of access to resources and opportunities, regardless of gender, including economic participation and decision-making, and the state of valuing different behaviors, aspirations, and needs equally, regardless of gender.
Thank you. So I hope you've all heard from him what gender equality is. So we're trying to see how we're ensuring inclusion in how gender inclusion is ensuring gender equality, like letting the ladies take on these things, try on this, do this and that, women in tech. Yeah. So Helen is ready. I'm going to invite Helen Mukasa. She's the head of marketing at the Innovation Village. Legal.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the Innovation Village. Who's visiting for the first time? Karibu sana. You're very welcome to our home. My name is Helen Mukasa, and I lead Legal. Specifically, I run the Legal Tech Lab. It's through which we contribute towards innovation in the legal industry. And I'm very pleased to be here with you today. All protocol observed, I would like to open my remarks with a tribute to women who lived, loved, nursed, nurtured, and worked before the digital transformation era, or for life as we know it now. It may appear to be such an ancient time, but it's not. It's actually just a generation behind us, right? Considering that we have a population of around 70% young people below 30 or thereabouts, it means these women are our mothers. They had to trek long distances, place to place, delivering goods, passing on day-to-day communication, household chores, business, everything was done in such an analog manner. And that translates into tiresome work. It was hard, it was tiresome, it was time-consuming, it was highly risky. But nonetheless, I think in their own way, they have made it, because here we are, their offspring, having it all by just a click of a button. So a round of applause for our mothers today. And now on to us, the generation that's living through this digital transformation era. So much has been made easier for us. It's faster, it's safer, because we have access to technology. And that can only mean that our innovation capabilities can only be limited by our own imagination. We have phones, we have cars, we have cameras. We are living the wildest dreams of the women that lived before us. And so, as we progress onto this journey, it's incumbent on us to challenge our minds, to think innovatively, but to foster inclusion as we innovate. It's our job as innovators, I believe, to ensure that as we create solutions, as we create products, we should be able to think about a human-centered design approach. If you build a solution today or a product, how does your solution work on a Monday for a woman in Bushenyi? Digital transformation or easy access to these technologies should not be restricted to the women in the urban areas. As we innovate, we have to really think through how we work towards reducing the digital divide that comes with the access to internet, to the gadgets that we in the urban areas might be easily having, but it's quite tough for a woman who is even maybe in a nearby district like Wakiso, but not in that urban area of Wakiso. So beyond human-centered design, I think again it's our duty as innovators to rise and take our place in ensuring that we create a conducive environment for innovation to thrive. This speaks to policy. And I know policy is one of those areas where people think, but that's the role of the regulator, right? I am just an innovator trying to create a product. Why should I think about policy? I think policy is important because primarily when we create, it is through such policies that we can reduce things like the digital divide and its implications. if the policies are such inclusive policies, then everyone, regardless of where they are, will be able to access the benefits of using technology. But also, we now know that as we transform digitally, things like cybersecurity become an issue. How do we use the data that we have? As how do we ensure safety of the people who use our products or use our solutions? But more importantly, how do we guard ourselves from any reputational damage that may come to us through use of our solutions to abuse? If you have a platform, if you have a solution, and unfortunately, this is an area that you didn't give any concern, and it's being used as a platform through which a couple of women suffer harm, that can cause such damage to you, regardless of how good you may have built. And so for me, that's the reason why, even as innovators, we should be able to take our place at the policy table and determine how we shape the regulatory framework around digitization. And so I also want to talk about the current state of women in tech. I think a lot has been done. We've really made progress, but there's still much to be desired. How do we build confidence in the employment world that a female engineer is just as good, if not even better, than a male engineer sometimes? How do we ensure that there's career guidance? Last week, I was with someone who was teaching on gender in the UNODC, and she's telling us a story of how she was really, really good in physics, but she's old. She's, I think, around 60 something. She was advised that girls can't do that. Pick arts. That's the girls' kind of subject majoring. And she's like, here I am now teaching gender. Not that it's a bad thing, but I could have been a very awesome engineer. So career guidance is also very important and it comes from, like way below when children are old. Let's not buy toys that are encouraging the girls to just, play house, play with dolls, and we are buying our boys the toys that encourage engineering. It should be as simple as how do we even apply this in our homes? Mentorship of young girls is very important. This is a space where we don't have many women. And so for those who are trying to venture into this space or are in the space but are struggling from all of the hurdles that come with being one of the few in the space, how do we ensure mentorship to encourage them to journey on despite these hurdles? And on that particular issue, I would like to shine my light on the ladies who have led in the space, on the ladies who are mentoring young women in technology. We see you, we applaud you, and we thank you for the service that you're doing that's very, very brave in encouraging women or younger girls to take their place. So I also feel like if we all play our part, it shouldn't be left to a few people. I believe strongly that everyone, wherever they are, has a part to play. And that if we all play our part, it could be a simple word of encouragement that you give to a friend. It could be a simple word of encouragement where you stand up towards someone who's discriminatory in a workplace, especially towards a female employee. It could be a simple act of bravery, but you're playing your part in that regard. And if we all play our part, I really believe that we can get to a place where it's not just about automation, but transformation. Because it's one thing for us to automate everything. Wouldn't that be nice? But is it truly transformative? If a woman is still afraid of carrying a Visa card because she'll be beaten at home, did we automate or did we transform? Yeah. So it should require us to really think through how we move this agenda forward in an inclusive manner and create a safe space. And I know that we have made a lot of strive as women, but we still have challenges. Yes, we have the tech, we have the cars and the phones. We can get information easily on our phones. We can get from place to place safely, but we still have challenges as women. But I just want to encourage you by saying that every time you feel like you're in a very hard place, you're going through something either at work or you're going through something at home or as an individual, look up into the sky and imagine all the women who went before you, the women in your line, the women who didn't have access to all of the tools you have. Just look up and imagine all of them cheering you on, applauding you and saying, you go girl, you can do it, you have the tools, far better tools than they had. And I hope that that can encourage you to carry on and don't give up, because I think that if we don't give up, one problem at a time, we can really truly achieve what our ambitions are. So I thank you for listening to me. I thank SafeBoda and the Innovation Village for creating this event for us to have thought-provoking conversations on how we can transform digitally in an inclusive manner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. Before you go, Helen works with the Innovation Village, and there's a community for the women in tech. Can you shed more light about that to the audience?
Thank you. So if you look around the room, we actually have scanners. That the scanners, by simply scanning that, you'll be able to find a lot of information on how to join the community. It's a community through which we are trying to build the young women who are interested in the space. There's activities on a regular. There's access to events through which you can have networking. There's access to mentors. So I encourage anyone who is in the space and has not joined to please find any one of those and scan them.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Helen, for the opening remarks. Personally, my takeaway was to do away with automation, but instead have transformation, because we realize that we are automated into very many systems today. So we need to ensure that we're actually getting transformed as a whole and not going with the system and what the system says or how it works. Thank you so much. A round of applause to her. Yeah, are you guys excited? Are you ready? Are you geared up? Do you like where we're headed so far? Yeah. So Women's Day is a day for us to celebrate the achievements of women in different spheres, socially, politically, economically, all the way. So today is one of those days. We're celebrating women, and we're going to have very amazing women on the panels and in the audience. Today we're celebrating you women, every woman out here. This is your day. Happy Women's Day. We're going to shake the world. The future is female. Yeah, so are you ready for the next panel? I'm going to invite the moderator for the first session to invite her amazing team and take us away.
Thank you very much. I know we're in the digital age and we're talking digital, but there's a lot of people on their phones. I bet if I chose one person to tell me the last sentence Helen said, we wouldn't find one. But hopefully for the next discussion, we can put our phones away so we can listen to these amazing ladies. And first of all, happy Women's Month. Yeah, because we don't just have one day, we claim the entire month and every single other day of the year, women for that matter. My name is Munira. I identify as a multi-hyphenate because I wear various roles when it comes to audiovisual production and the media industry. I have over 10 years of experience being a radio and television host. I have worked for multiple media houses, but currently work for Next Media, NBS Sport to be particular, and Radio City. And also, I'm very passionate about autism and advocating and creating awareness for autism. Now, I'll be very honest and say that I am yet to properly seize the opportunity that digital spaces provide. And for me, I'm very honored to be here today because I get to learn a lot. The learning curve doesn't end, especially with something of this magnitude. And so I'm happy that SafeBoda invited me to be here today as I get on my journey to the promised digital land. Now, the rapid spread of digitalization and technology has provided so many opportunities for businesses to grow. But even though we label it as a great leveler, the outcomes are not always automatic like people think, especially for women. There's a lot of questions on how women manage to transition into digital entrepreneurial careers and how they manage to come up with strategies to cope with digital work environments. And these are questions that we're going to have answered today with the wonderful panel of phenomenal women that I have today that have managed to excel in their particular fields. So please allow me to welcome them. And as I do, give them a warm round of applause. Most of them are nervous, but they're excited to share their knowledge today. I'm going to start with Diana Nabukenya Adeyemi. She's the country director. Diana is the country director of Copia, Uganda, and as an accomplished business and commercial leader with experience across the East African region as well as Asia, Diana is committed to building thriving commercial ecosystems for Africa. Neha Pandya. Now, she's the co-founder and chief operating officer at Flip Africa. That's a digital freelance marketplace that aims to create trust, transparency, and upward mobility in the $884 billion African gig economy. Also on the panel, we have Delia Dean. She brings more than 10 years of experience on issues of women's economic empowerment, where she provides intellectual leadership to the technical work on gender, focusing on generating evidence, data, and information on gender, technology, and agriculture, strengthening capacities for design and implementation of gender-responsive policies and programs. This is Delia. And finally, on this very strong panel, Sumayah Kyewalyanga, a highly skilled and experienced woman entrepreneur in the digital financial services industry. She has successfully built and grown businesses and her business over the past 12 years, and with a focus on digital payments. Yeah, she's a true entrepreneurial spirit combined with her expertise in the industry. She has enabled and developed innovative strategies that drive business growth. Please welcome the panel. Now, first of all, when we were bonding in our little corner over there, we discovered that we are all mothers, and we bonded over that and many other things as well. And some of us were talking about how we have to rush back to other workplaces, how we have to pick kids from school. Others are wives. So I think I'll just dive into the first question immediately, because this conversation is just going to trickle down, and ask, because we are literally, when it comes to work, we are operating in a testosterone-driven centric world. It's like the men built this world basing on their experiences, not actually considering the many hats and the many roles that we have to do as women. We want to excel at being mothers, at being wives, at being great daughters and sisters. At the same time, we want to build powerful work for ourselves, powerful businesses for ourselves. So have you felt in your personal experiences that the digital age is sort of balancing and creating a solution to you balancing the many hats that you wear? Neha, I'll start with you.
Thank you so much. I think in many ways it can, and it attempts to. I think the power of technology means that we can work more so at times that are built on our schedules. So I know for myself, I do have quite an atypical job, maybe not for the people here, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs in the room. But certainly I work around the schedule my school pick up and drop off schedules, and I can work into the night. So in many ways, yes, but I think that's a very elite answer, and I think that there are many women whose jobs do not allow for them to work beyond the traditional 8 to 5. So I think very much it depends. I think there is an opportunity at the same time, because we have Zoom and Skype and all these digital tools to be able to work remotely. I think part of the challenge is thinking that we can be efficient at home with kids in the background. It doesn't always happen. But of course, if those calls are happening during working hours, I do think that there's more opportunity for it to be more inclusive.
Diana, in your personal experience.
Thank you. A very interesting one for me, I must say, because balancing, I think, is one thing. So just like she mentioned, there's different aspects to it, but I'll speak to it from both as a mother and a wife, but also as a leader at Copia. So I think that digital spaces are a force for transformation, are a force for inclusivity. They have a role to play. Digital spaces have a role to play for us as women. But I think there's no such thing as a balance. Like we were just chatting offline and talked about the fact that because of digital empowerment, we actually end up working longer hours. We actually end up carrying work home. You have stand-up calls in the morning at 7 or 7:15, and this wouldn't ordinarily have happened without this whole digital space. So it has its pros, it has its cons. So it's about working together on how do we make it work. And when we talk about, I think in your question there was a bit around digital equity. For me, I'm looking at not just providing a shoe for somebody, but a shoe that fits, right? And what does that mean? I work with last mile, I work with the mass markets in Copia. And so if we are talking about smartphones, what's the reality? What are the chances that my grandmother deep there in Masaka can actually use a smartphone to be part of e-commerce, which is what I do? And so it's about finding a solution that fits that audience. So for example, using USSD, which means you don't need a smartphone, you can use a feature phone wherever you are to be able to access what we call e-commerce, which would traditionally be considered digital inclusive.
Delia, I'll go with you since you're seated right next to Diana.
Okay, I typically play devil's advocate in most of the things I do. And just like with every development, there's pros and cons, there's opportunities, and there's definitely risks. And so it's about identifying for a cohort of people. She works with last mile. Neha has, I think, a mixed range of clients that she serves. Sumayah works both with high net worth individuals as well as bottom of the pyramid, right? And so it's really understand at the very bottom of what we're trying to do and promote, are we ensuring that we're not doing any harm? Are we putting in place technologies that actually benefit people, and the opportunities and the benefits far outweigh the risks? Most recently, I was in one of the refugee settlements, and we're trying to understand why there's such a low uptake of STEM. And the feedback was many of the mothers did not want their daughters to have phones because now they're noticing a trend of a high rate of teenage pregnancies because it's so much easier now to set up dates over the phone. And initially, we would never, had we not gone to the ground and interacted with these parents, we would never have thought that that was the barrier to STEM adoption. So it's who is it for, why is it relevant for them, and will it be a force of good, not only just now because it's the cool thing to do, but also many years down the line. Thanks.
Thank you all. Speaking in the same breath,
technology comes with its pros and cons. Coming from an MNO perspective, we look at what is happening, what products can we make to feed everybody. For example, the example you've given in the villages or in the refugee camps, what is the need and how can we use technology to actually aid them into, for instance, most refugees have not been getting aid because a bank had to go and camp there for a whole week to give out money one by one. Somebody lost their ID, so they won't get. So MNOs came up, like MTN, we came up with mobile money. Mobile money is the new currency in the third world, as we all know. So right now they can all receive their fund or stipend that they want to pay them. For example, World Health Organization, Give Directly, the UN can send them the stipend in one go with just a click of a button. And that is the aid of technology. But on the other side, like you say, if the phones are getting the girls pregnant, how do we create a balance? How do we use technology to maybe bar certain sites from being accessed? How do we use technology to limit the phones to do just specific? You remember there's some gadgets I think the UN put out. It was only for agriculture. You could only read the weather, agriculture input, the season. So maybe we can try to find a balance.
My next question I'm going to bounce off Sumayah and what she just said and the solution that MTN brought with mobile money, which also applies to the digital space. All of you, of course, leading women when it comes to the businesses that you have. And you've been there and understand the ins and outs of digital spaces. But I want to know, at what point did you have the realization that actually the digital spaces can provide solutions, especially to women-led businesses?
For me, it was, I got a priceless moment when, same example, we were in Chaka. These guys, these ladies, families, majority, 80% of them are women. They're from DRC and Burundi. They had been there for quite a while, almost a year and a half, plus high mortality rate, high child, but as in a lot was going on. If you went there, you would cry. So Give Directly comes through with a partnership with MTN to give aid and it was unsolicited aid, as in they gave them money to be able to cater for the basics, which is food and shelter, build a house, buy food. That's all they wanted them to do. But how do they pay them? How do they give them this money? The first installment we paid at the click, we just got them SIM cards. We rounded them all up, got approval from OPM to how do we give refugees SIM cards without, they don't have national IDs. How do we do this? Because we had no way of identifying them, being able to give them this money. Anyway, long story short, we were able to give a stipend to over 7,000 families in one go. And you should have seen the smiles on the faces of these people on that day. It was priceless for me. And that's when I realized how much technology can change and transform lives. In just a flash, in just a click. Looking at them, children were now able to go to school, as in parents could take their kids to school in just a click of a finger. People were able to feed their families with just a click of a finger. So for me, that was my turning point.
On the business side, a team of like-minded people and myself are trying to set up a social enterprise. And this social enterprise is really to address some of the bottlenecks in agriculture. And one of the beauties for me for the digital platforms was discovering Upwork. Upwork is a freelance platform where you can hire some of the best talent around the world without actually ever meeting them face to face. And for us, this was phenomenal because we get to have a first world, first class CFO based in the UK, and we have a top marketing executive based in Kenya. And so for me as a female who's very time constrained, I'm not going to learn this stuff myself. I'm not going to learn how to do a digital marketing campaign. Can I? Yes, I could if I created more hours, right? Between picking kids from school and everything else, right? But just being able to tap into such a network means that we have been able to accelerate the rate at which we are putting together this business. So from a personal experience, I think for me that was the takeaway from last year that made me very pleased.
Thank you. I think for me, the realization came with COVID and the lockdown. And here was, I was meant to launch a business, Copia, in Uganda. And yeah, lockdown, but our business is logistics. We are delivering to the last mile. And this is a new organization. You're not registered. So registration is a problem because I didn't have a permit to leave my house to actually go and get the business registered, right? That's number one. Number two, you need URA, you need legal services, you need a bank. And all this you need to recruit to her point. You actually need to recruit a team. More so, you need to get suppliers to give you goods to be able to sell. And it was such an interesting time, quite challenging, but eye-opening as well. I think for me, that was the realization of digital at its peak for me. Because first of all, I did the interviews to join the organization online. Everything happened online to when I started, but it trickled down. I recruited my entire team online. So you've just got to trust the person behind the camera is actually the person. But most importantly, you've got all these regulators that you need to work with to set up a business and start operating without having to meet them. Of course, there are early adopters, there are people who will, and because this business already existed in Kenya, there was something to refer to. But I've also seen many businesses during that time that had nothing to refer to. Fast forward, during that time, we actually set up a business, recruited over 29 people to start the business with, and we went last mile. The business was most relevant during that time because then people had no access at all, no access to essentials. Even when you had money, you could hardly access what you needed to buy, including food. And so, whereas it was a challenge on one end, digitization helped us to actually get last mile and get our goods and services, quality, affordable goods to the people last mile. 2 years down the road, slightly under 2 years down the road, the testimonies that I hear from these women every day, 65% of our employees are women, but also 81% of our agents are women. The transformation it created, many of them lost jobs. Many of them were stay-home moms. But when this came on board, they were like, okay, this requires me to just be an agent where I am. That I can do. What is it you need from me? I need your ID, I need your phone. Okay, that I have. And through that, women have established businesses. Women have been transformed. They're able to contribute to their families. They're able to educate their children. They're able to do a lot more than they had ever envisioned doing. So yeah, for me, 2020 into 2021, yeah, was it.
Right. For me, Flip really started as a discussion between my co-founder, Abu and I, and we were both obsessed with the challenge of youth unemployment and how we could really flip the narrative, the name came later, of youth unemployment. And, when we looked at the solutions at the time of what was being done, we saw people kind of training the 15% of young people that would be getting the jobs in formal offices. And we knew that this remaining 85%, was not simply unemployed. They were just working in the gig economy. But for me, as a lawyer by background, to go into the monstrosity that is, the very disorganized gig economy, it's informal, it's exploitative, it's illegal, and to be able to find opportunities in it was scary. But I think that's the power of technology. We recognize that we had to go there if we wanted to create a radical, disruptive solution for the 85%. We had to go there. And so technology enabled us to create order within the gig economy. And we've been able to create something that is the Upwork of Africa. So it's still, a work in progress. And, but our key goals, like create visibility in the gig space, create accountability, create upward mobility, all of those became possible because of technology. So it's definitely the background and basis of our entire company.
Well, that's very wonderful testimonies from all of you ladies. Now, research done by a firm called Statistica suggests that, by contrast, in sub-Saharan Africa, we have about 45% of men using the internet as compared to 34% of women. And specifically, Diana with Copia and Neha with Flip, this goes to show, if this research is being as accurate as possible, this goes to show that we still have some gender bias, even in the digital space, like the same one we have in traditional spaces. And I just want to know if during the start of this journey, you faced any gender bias with that. Like, oh, it's a woman-led firm, even if it's on the digital space, can we trust that? Did you ever get that? Even Sumayah and Delia, being in such positions that you're in, do you still face that to this day?
No, absolutely. It's real. It is real indeed. It's progressive though. I think that by the day, from when I started working 15, 16 years ago to today, definitely there is a transformation that has happened. As far as digitization is concerned, in Uganda especially, I think the basic starting point is a phone. The entry level to digitization for anybody, woman or man, is phone, right? But the question is, how many women actually have access to phones? Phone, feature phone, smartphone, any phone. How many? For the people in the room, perhaps you bought your parents the first phone, or at least your grandparents the first phone, right? Now. And so it's a real challenge. That aside, access to internet. If access was there, what is the cost of that internet, right? And we are now bringing it home to Uganda. So it's beyond just what it is that women can do as entrepreneurs, that women can get out of the digital space. Have we made it available? First of all, is it accessible? Is it affordable? And how do we work with them? I go back to my point around not just providing a shoe, but providing a shoe that fits. And that's where Copia, for example, we are an e-commerce organization servicing the mass market. What do? We find you at your point where you are and we grow with you. For example, if you do have an analog phone, you will use USSD to buy goods, and you also use USSD to pay. However, even when you don't have that, we have partnered with a couple of organizations that promote financial inclusion to do smartphone financing. Sumayah here, I'm sure that's something that you would talk about. Smartphone financing, just to having understood that the basics of digitization start with owning a phone, how then do we enable that woman out there to at least access an affordable quality phone? And therefore we go into partnerships with telecos, with a couple of other organizations other organizations to actually bring smartphone financing to these people. And once they have them, we go a step further to train them on how to use those gadgets. And I think if we continue doing this, a copy alone cannot be the solution for this. We need the government to be a part of it. We need the telecos to be we need Delia here to be a part of it. We need everybody. And I think if we are able to do that progressively, we will see a much better digitally enabled population.
Neha, what was your experience in that?
I don't know that I have a very different experience. In terms of the digital footprint, and I think the statistics that you shared, the fact that women have significantly less digital access than men. I think it's really it doesn't surprise me, those statistics. I can't say I've been personally affected. I think as much as others, but the fact that women generally spend our disposable income on the family, we reinvest it back in our homes. So when a man has disposable income, he's often able to buy a smartphone, load that data bundle, but we're thinking of school fees, we're thinking of what's for dinner, we're thinking of those things that we need to sustain the household. So I think that's something that continues to push the digital divide even further.
You were talking about the refugee camps that you are in, and you worked firsthand with women, and I believe it's the same experience that Delia has every now and then because of the scope of her job. And in times when you find yourself in situations where you need to introduce them to the digital ways of doing things because you want to make work easy, when you see this for yourselves firsthand, apart from that, what other things do you think are holding women back from rightfully using the digital realm or taking up their spaces in the digital realm as they should?
I think the biggest challenge, especially in Africa, and I'm sure many parts of the world, not just Africa, is the cultural bias. As in, most of us women are limited in access to maybe taking up the space for starters. You're told, I think the people before us, even our age mates, you couldn't study engineering. They'll tell you, no, do social sciences. You can't do sciences. So you'd find it's only the young generation now that you'll see girls doing data science, STEM, and all these other digital courses. Also, cultural bias, a woman is supposed to stay at home. So most of the women have no access to financial literacy. For instance, my own mother only started using WhatsApp when one of my brothers went abroad, because she had no use for it. She'll tell you, you will come tomorrow. I'll see all of you the next day. So what's the point of? So we need to come out strongly and educate, give them financial management tools. Secondly is the issue of privacy. Women, we all know our cultures. Money earned by the woman is money for the family. The men will bulldoze all the women, their wives, to hand over the money that they make. Most of them farm, the produce they sell, the money goes to the husband to do as he pleases. So MTN and all these other entities have come up with money management tools. For instance, we can enable women now save in privacy. Products like Mocash. With some savings, then you can make investments, you can buy assets, you can take yourself out of the pitfall of poverty. So I think we still have very many limitations. Education, especially financial literacy, because we all don't have to go to school. We need to come out and do these interactions with the communities. Teach women that there are tools out there. You don't have to have gone to school to actually use them. There's more you can do with mobile money than just sending person to person. You can make payments, you can run your shop at home and people pay you virtually through MomoPay. You can save via Mocash. You can actually cross borders. You don't have to be limited in your own scope, only your community. You can actually sell to anyone across the country and actually cross borders. There are remittance services. There's so much out there. We just need to be deliberate to do financial literacy.
I guess in addition to the constraints that my peers have shared, I will just piggyback on the issue of social norms and gender biases. I will bring an example that's very close to, it's literally from where we are. Every couple of years, I volunteer as a coach and mentor during the innovation weeks at the Innovation Village. And what typically happens is you will have groups of people that come together, put together an idea, and over a course of 78 hours, we have to come up with a winner. And very quickly, you will see the group dynamic, because when you first meet them, everybody is a coder. Everybody has contributed to the development of this product. But when we're doing the organization of the group, we say somebody has to be responsible for the tech, somebody has to be responsible for the marketing, somebody has to be responsible for the look and feel. And very quickly, the females in these teams are pushed to do the feminine tasks and roles, right? And I've had to keep pushing within those groups. I'm like, why are you saying that she's not going to be responsible for the tech? I thought this was a dream child of the four of you, right? And so what then happens is that bias and self-doubt starts creeping in. And then what happens is you don't get opportunity, right? And women and girls are not given that opportunity. She may be the best coder, the best website designer and developer, but she's then not given the opportunity to practice that skill. As I said, in this startup, we have tried very hard to find application developers that are female. I know they exist, but I cannot find them. And the reason being that over time, because by year 2.5, your mother's like, we sent you to school. We don't understand this thing you do. You go sit at Innovation Village. We don't see the money. It's not a 9 to 5. You're a girl. You're going to get old. You need to get married. You need to have children, right? And so what's happened with a lot of our girls in tech is they've gone into traditional roles, bank teller, cashier somewhere, open up a clothing boutique, but they do have this expertise that they haven't been given the opportunity to actually use and refine.
Build on something that Delia said that definitely caught my attention, the self-doubt. We all have that little voice within you when you have this big idea, because I always meet brilliant young women that have amazing ideas, but it holds them back, that little voice. Most times they succumb to it. Even myself, very many times, I end up procrastinating on things or never doing them at all. And I would like to console myself in a way that when Diana was starting out with Copia, she dealt with that little voice. Or maybe Neha had that voice when she was going to start Flip, or even before Flip, in your journey being a lawyer. Same thing with Sumayah taking up the positions that you have in MTN. How, as women, do you deal with that tiny voice and step out knowing all the things that are going to hit you as soon as you do, but eventually you deal with them all?
It's a very interesting one. But for me, the big voice behind the small voice is my mom. I was raised by a single mother that dropped out of school in S2 and lost her husband at 24 and had the four of us. Yeah, housekeeper, dropped out of school, S2. Husband died at 24, and all of us have graduated in school. I believe my siblings are in whichever industries they play today, they are known, if you Google them. So I keep asking myself, if my mother, who did not go to school, who lost her husband at 24, made it, why can't I? As a matter of fact, I'll be quick on this one. My father was a carpenter. And so when my father died, after my mom came out of that shock, about a week later, she went and became a carpenter. I'm sure today, if she was in that business, she would be among the people talked about in this city with what they can do. She was never taught by anybody. My father had over 20 employees in his workshop, much older than her. She was 24, a housewife. She came in that workshop and asked guys, okay, how much money is on the account? Okay. She didn't know how to keep books, guys. On a serious note, we all know that by S2, nobody has taken you through management accounts, right? P&L, all those things. In Ugandan education system, I'm sorry to say, you only find them at campus, right? But she came and asked them, guys, I want to see your books. Who bought? Who do we owe? Who owes us? So many years later, we are where we are today. And that's the big voice for me behind the small voice that keeps me in self-doubt.
Neha, what was your big voice behind the small voice?
I would say there were a lot of small voices, and they sounded almost drowning to any voices around them. I think the self-doubt it's overpowering at times, especially in your younger years for the young women in here. I think we've all been there, I remember just walking into a law firm in, a big city in the US, large law firm, and a lawyer looked, old and white and male. And I was none of those things. And I remember praying those days for some gray hair for people to take me seriously. I don't pray for that anymore. People just assumed I was a legal secretary because that's what I looked like. There's so much self-doubt. If you let that drown out everything around you, it can. And I think it is just like your support system, and for me, it was actually my dad. At that age, I never really knew what being female meant, that it meant something limiting, because that was never the way I was raised. For me, the whole world was, open to me. And so that was very, it was a shock as a young woman entering the workplace. And I can't say that it stops at a certain age. It definitely gets easier. But part of it is age, part of it is motherhood. For many of us, you gain strength from unknown places. And then, you just don't have an option. It's just about, you feel like you're holding the door open for so many people behind you. So I think that's really the loud voice for me.
Oh, like all of us, mine is similar to Neha's. Mine was my dad. Of course, from a chauvinistic perspective, because he had only girls. I am his firstborn. So he told me, you're the boy that I have. So you have to man up. And told me there's nothing a boy can do that you can do. So I learned how to change a tire, I learned how to change a bulb. I can do carpentry, there's nothing I can do. If I can't do it, I don't want to do it. So he told me, they know me as the wheeler dealer, as in if I want something, I will get it. And that is the big voice. He always told me there's nothing a man can do, you cannot do. So my entrepreneurship journey also started from there. Because that's when I was in S6 vacation before joining campus. So he had a car, and he told me, so you're going to sit around? How do you expect the home, as in who'll take bread home, who'll take milk home? You want to sit around and watch? I'm like, okay, what do I do? So we do function hire services. So I used to see people come, hire tents, chairs, and what else comes with this package? What else do they do? As in, what else? So I realized they actually hire cars to do the charge to the reception. So I requested kindly, can I use your car to do chauffeuring for bridesmaids and brides? So he gave me his car on condition we share 50-50, so that I can pay up for the car and be able to own it on my own and buy others. And the other condition, if I'm not able to pay it up in a year, he takes it back, no payback, or I buy another car from the money that I've made. That way I can own the other one. I'm like, deal. So I was the first girl then in S6, I think I was about 18, 19, to drive brides for a living. So out of that, I bought 6 cars.
Delia, you've worked with very powerful companies in this world. And I need to hear from you as well, how you dealt with that little voice.
You cry in a pillow? You seriously do? You seriously do? And every day it's something different, right? When you work, so in school you're taught about the glass ceiling that you can't go beyond, but you never told that there's so many layers before you even get to that glass ceiling, right? And I think I survive by relationships. Work will always get done, right? Whether we're here or not, whatever work needs to happen, this function would still have taken place even if all of us here had canceled at the last minute. But what's important is be intentional about building relationships. It shouldn't always be about, oh, what am I going to get out of this? If I give you this, you need to give me that. Be intentional about building relationships, because sometimes that kicker-upper, that motivator comes from the person you least expect, and they tell you exactly what you need to hear in that particular moment. Yeah. So it's the relationships.
I believe from them only sharing their experiences, we've gotten advice on how to move forward and take up spaces in the digital realm. Like I had a question for that, but I'll do away with it, because only experience alone gets one to think, if they did it, then it definitely can, because there's always enough space for all of us to take up. So I'm going to move on to another question that most people have when they're going to start a business. Funding. The ideas are always there, but the funding. And I must ask, especially for Diana and Copia, and of course, Flip over there, do you think that your experiences in getting funding for your businesses in digital spaces has been easier than the traditional way? Or is it still a tug of war over there?
I mean, it's definitely a tug of war. I think anybody in the room knows that. I think there is a bias against African founders to begin with. And when you think about the African startups that have really made it, it's often foreign-born founders. Unfortunately, my organization hasn't benefited from that too much, because I'm not sort of what a foreign founder looks like, either in terms of race or gender. But yeah, so there are all those barriers to access, and they're very real. But yeah, I think if you have the opportunity to connect on a human level and tell a story of, you know, the possibilities that you can create, I think there definitely are opportunities. We've benefited from some, but it's definitely an upward climb.
Yeah, I think she's spot on. For Copia, I do not fundraise directly, but the founder for Copia, Tracy Turner, is a female American. And I kind of have a clue what she goes through, given the interactions that I have with her. So the struggle is real. And I think for Africa in general, just like Neha mentioned, it is real. But one thing that I have learned in Copia, and I still learn as we go from big organizations like this that have managed to fundraise millions of dollars, readiness. As an entrepreneur, before I joined Copia, of course, I've had other businesses running. And what I have learned is we expect to get money when we are not ready. Do you have the basics in place? Do you have a minimum viable product? Are you filling a gap in the first place, or are you just a copycat? Anybody can develop an app. I think I have over 40 apps. My son, who is 3-year-old, I think his hobby is downloading apps. I have apps that I don't go to because for me, they're not solving a need. I think as entrepreneurs, especially in this part of the world, we need to go back to the basics. We need, first of all, to understand what gap are we filling, who is our target audience, and clean house. Do we have our financials in place? And financials don't mean we should be profitable, no. But do we even have projections? Or are we going out to simply say, if you give me $50,000, I'll be home and dry? And anybody looking at it, face value, will know you're definitely lying. It's not going to work. And I think people that have tried to fundraise when they're not prepared enough have created this bias for African startups. And so I think the struggle is real, but I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, because I have lived it. In Copia, I see the team raising money. I see what we go through, even to do due diligence with the investors and what they look for. And I think that in our small businesses, if we are able to borrow from that and prepare appropriately, we should get the funding. All I can say is there's lots of money out there. The most important bit is for what purpose? What are we solving for? Yeah.
4 pointers from Diana, and I had a lot of questions that I had for the panel today. I wanted to maximize my time with you because I think on any other day I'll have to book an appointment to speak to one of you, probably have to pay for it. But I feel like you've answered a lot from your experiences. So in the interest of the time that we had allocated, I just have 2 final questions that will go to all of you. I have a son, and I remember before I had him, I was worried about how he would treat women in the future. So I was very deliberate on how I want to raise him. So they said, okay, I'm going to Google. It's very silly, but let me just Google how to raise a feminist son. And guess what? There was a book by Sonora Ja called How to Raise a Feminist Son. So I ordered for the book, got it, and I'm trying to read it to him. He's 17 months right now, but I'm very deliberate on how I want to raise my son to respect women and treat them respectfully and so on. But I cannot wait to have a daughter, my God. So I'm going to go back to what Delia said in the refugee camps that you were in. The fact that they didn't want to let their daughters access something that could help them in the future, because that's where we are all headed. We all work for companies that are restructuring and rebranding to go digital, and they don't want their daughters to have this because they're afraid of the outcomes of this. How, as women, are we going to empower our girls to know that they need to take up this because it is the future, if we're very honest?
Personally, I think it's every woman's role to hold another woman's hand, because we're all struggling with something, and somebody has the answer to your problem. I may know how to be a man or man up, but you may know how to, because I don't know how to cry. I need it. I need to learn to cry. I can't man up all my life. So we need to hold each other. We need to hold each other's hands. There's a lady, I always remember this, there's a forum called When Women Lead. It's in Zambia. So it was started by a group of very successful women, then the governor of Zambia, the lady now, the chaperone now is the CEO of ABSA there. So it has quite a lot of influential women in it. And they say, hold up another woman, it's your role as a woman. And they say there's definitely a place in hell for any woman that does not pick up another woman. So we all don't want to go to hell. So let's all try to lift up one another. And when we do so, there are opportunities out there. You can't do it all. If there's an opportunity, why not pick you up and tell you can do it? I don't know everything. There's somebody that knows something I don't know. Every team needs a piece of everything. So if we deliberately do that, and there's a lot of information. Secondly, there's a lot of information out there. We need to learn to read, the culture of reading. I think as females, naturally, maybe because of how we were brought up, we are nurtured to be moderate, or humility is over-preached to us, and humility, accommodating, we are told, lay low, as in it's drummed in us from when we are born, it's drummed in us in all the environments we are in. A woman is not supposed to be heard. They're supposed to be seen. Could be true, but you can be seen in another way. You can be actually present. So I believe it's time to stop being modest about success. Because a man who's successful will come out, it's okay for a man to come out and say, I am. When a woman does that, it's like, will anybody marry her? Who's the husband? Does she have any children? So I'm not saying let us boast about it. I am just saying we need to stop acting moderate about success. We need to own our space. We need to help each other get into the space. Get into that boardroom. There's a chair for you in that boardroom. There's a chair for you on that cabinet in the government. There's a chair for you on that school board. There's a chair for you in this room. There's a chair for us. I always have this mentality, whether it's in a parking lot. When they tell me it's full, I'll tell them there's a slot. There is always a slot. And indeed, you know, the universe gives you what you think about. I've learned to believe that. So all the time, the guards at office laugh at me. I told them, there's a spot. They're like, Madam, it's full. I said, there is a spot. And as we're arguing, somebody's coming out. I'm like, I told you, there is a spot for me. So there is a spot for each one of us. Let's take that spot.
I think quickly, as she was sharing her experience with the refugee camps and what the funds have done, I have an 18-year-old. And this 18-year-old, I can't say I have been the best mother there is for her, because at first I was really monitoring everything that she was doing on the phone. And at first it was my phone. Then she goes to boarding school where everybody has a phone. It's normal to have phones there. So to cut the long story short, I think for me it's about training from when they're young. And STEM, for example, everything can be done on the phone. So teach them what it is to use the phone for and also what it's not. So for example, should you choose, I actually don't go the blocking route anymore, because even if you block, they will have friends who come for sleepovers and all that stuff, and they're inquisitive. For those of you that are Ugandan, you know that anytime your mother says no, that's the place to go, to actually check why no. So I think this is an opportunity as digitally enabled mothers, entrepreneurs, women, to actually teach our kids young on what to and what not to, but not end at what not to, give the why. Yeah.
So if I can just add, Munira, I really resonate with you, because I also have a boy, and I am obsessed with raising a good man. That's all I want to do. But I do think that that is where the responsibility lies. I think we need to shift that burden from us only raising one another up to having men as our champions for this, because they're currently the ones benefiting from the existing systems. So I had my 6-year-old last night literally crying, saying, why is there a day for girls but not for boys? And of course, in his little heart of hearts, I could understand that he didn't see an unequal world. But the problem is really that we have fully grown men that do not understand why there is a Women's Day. And I think therein lies the problem. And I'm so happy that 2 of my colleagues are here, male colleagues, and I'm like, I just have the best team in the world. But when we look around, we really don't have enough men in this room. This is not a conversation for women, about women. It should be a conversation that everybody feels invested in, because otherwise we're leaving half of the world's potential out or at a disadvantage. I really think that, you know, for true systems change, because this is a system that needs to change, the people who are currently benefiting from the system have to be willing to no longer benefit from the system. That means some of your pay is going into her pocket. So until we as a society are ready for that, things will not change. I think the lowest statistic I found to date is that it will take 125 years. That's the least number of years I was able to find from a reliable source to bring or to bridge the pay gap, the gender pay gap. 125 years. That is your daughter's daughter. I don't know. But by then, I'm sure she'll be studying abroad on a Jupiter's moon. So I mean, like, this is really, we really need immediate action, and the people who are benefiting from the system really need to champion it.
Well, Neha mentioned the men that we have here today, and I feel they deserve a round of applause. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being invested in this. Yes. Well, my final question, of course, to the ladies on the panel, very quickly just mention, because as entrepreneurs, one of the things that you always lead is the value that I add to my client, the value that you add to your client. But what are the values that you live by, that you do not compromise on, that have done great for your businesses as well as for yourself as a person? You could just mention them as we conclude.
We leading with compassion. And that's, we were discussing earlier, it's taken as a women's weakness, but it's actually our strength. If you look at all leadership, motivation, teachings, the new way of leadership is lead with compassion and empathy. That way people work with you, work for you, they get to do more productivity. And again, everyone wants to be cared about. Even when you're praying, they tell you, praise God, then he will give you more. So let's learn to lead with compassion. Then also let us learn to unlearn. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Use what you have. For instance, I know many women, we are running businesses on WhatsApp, the old way of you send all your contacts, what you're selling. But there's more you can do with WhatsApp. Evolve. Display on your status. Now there's WhatsApp business, as in evolve within WhatsApp. Then before you know it, you'll realize there's another angle to it. So let's learn, let's learn more. Let's use what we have. I think that's...
Delia.
I think mine would be do no harm.
Mine, I would say people matter. You can never build this thing alone. As an entrepreneur, you can't. People matter. So finding the right people to complement your skills is really important. The right fit for
words. I think they're very traditionally weak words. I think they're very traditionally weak words. They don't sound like powerful values, but I think that there's a real power in redefining, what leadership is. And I think the world is calling for this new type of leadership. We see a generation of young people that are no longer willing to, conform to the hierarchy. They want to be heard. They want to bring their ideas to the table. And I think it's upon us to be a part of that change and to nurture it. And I think women are in a really great place to be able to create that type of conducive environment.
Thank you, Neha, Diana, Delia, and Sumayah. I was looking forward to having this conversation, and a massive thanks to SafeBoda and Innovation Village for making this happen. And thank you all. I think our panelists, some of them will still be around. You can ask them questions and you can engage with them on one-on-ones. I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to respond. Well, thank you so much for giving us your attention. My final word will be in the words of a very wise woman, Sumayah Kyewalyanga, there is always a chair. There's always a spot for you in that parking lot. Use the parking lot as a metaphor. Happy Women's Month.
Very much. This was a mind-blowing session. So for me, my takeaway was my small voice now going forward is going to be what Sumayah said. Stop acting moderate about success. I'm going to pursue success like never before. I'm not going to be moderate about that anymore. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're very honored to have all of you. It was a very beautiful discussion. The question about funding was well broken down because the youth today just want to ask for funding, but are you solving a solution? Are you ready? Do you have a proof of concept? So there are very many apps, as she said, but what is different from yours? So it was a very amazing session for me. I have taken notes, 2 pages. If you want, reach out to me. I can share my notes with you. Yeah, thank you very much. So do any people have any questions for the panel? Joey has a question here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joey. The question I have for these brilliant women is transitioning in careers. Yes, personally, I own a branding and printing business, but I want to switch to the digital space, and it's intimidating. I know maybe some of you have had like various careers throughout the years. How are you able to do that? confidently, and what are your tips to kind of carry through, especially when you feel like you're facing a lot of resistance?
Thank you so much. So I'm going to take all the questions and then I'll let the panel answer. Anyone else with a question? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Immaculate. And my question goes to Diana, or maybe to all the panelists. Like, you mentioned about the opportunity that COVID presented to us where we're working remotely. And so how did you find out the productivity of women versus men? Also, given the situation that women are, like when you work from home, there is always that distraction. So I want you to shed more light on how women can be productive in the digital space, more productive in the digital space than men, given the society roles and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. One last question from Suna. One last question from the lady. She has manipulated me, but okay.
It's Women's Month. Yeah, thank you very much, panelists. Mine is, I'm appealing to all of you to throw some more light on how to help, how to help everyone here in the room work towards personal or corporate branding to aid distinctiveness and ensure that we are fostering the competitive edge for women. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to let the panel answer these questions. However, they're going to be around till we're done, so you can reach out to them individually for any other questions. Thank you.
I'll take the question on career transition. I wouldn't say career transition as such, but I'll just speak as an entrepreneur, but also as a career person. Because personally, I haven't chosen to move from one to another. As a matter of fact, I started out with a beauty parlor when I just left school. I left that, I went into corporate. And then along the way, I realized, actually, even with corporate, I can still solve for a need. So I'll tackle it from that angle. I think the first one for me, speaking of it, is know what your purpose is. What is it that you love as a person to do, right? Because then that doesn't matter whether you're doing it on your own or doing it as a career person, right? So if you love photography, which I do, by the way, and I will add it to my entrepreneurship journey. If you love photography, for example, and you're doing branding today, what else is within photography that you can do to add? Sophie here asked a question around personal branding. So can you move from just branding on paper or branding billboards to branding people? Right? Because generally you love branding. So for me, what has helped, I had 10 years in Unilever doing retail. Today I'm in Copia doing e-commerce, right? The two are a very good transition. I've transitioned into the digital space seamlessly because I've used the 10 years that I had gotten over in Unilever, transit into what I do in Copia today, and growing every day from it every day. So number one, use your strength, know your passion, know your purpose, start there. Number, be intentional in acquiring skills of what it is that you want to do, right? So in Copia, for example, when I started Copia in Uganda, I had no clue what project management was. Of course, outside, you know, when you're working in very structured environments, there's somebody doing a piece of everything. But when you're starting, Neha here will tell you, she has to be everything in the beginning, right? Of course, her and her partner. And so when I was starting in Copia, it required me to be a bit of everything. Build the P&L, go and do research, what products we should do, be the hiring manager, do all those things. And I realized I had a gap. And so I started doing my PMP certification, project management certification, to learn how to apply myself in the project management space. So number 2 is identify what your gaps are and work towards filling them. And the last one is the one Sumayah likes a lot. Network. Like, today you've come here, make sure by the time you leave this room, there's at least one person that will add value to your transition into what you want to do next.
I can speak to personal branding. I can speak to personal branding. I think part of personal branding is not just what you do, because I think you can't always control it. You kind of often, especially in an economy like this, you take whatever job you can get, or you have an accounting background, all of a sudden you're doing sales jobs, because that's what can pay for your tuition or your household. But I think those parts of your character are things that will always stay with you, regardless of whether you're a salesperson or an accountant. Like if somebody says that, if your personal brand is being someone whose quality is always excellent, is someone who's has a high level of integrity, or an excellent work ethic, doesn't matter which industry you end up in, people will follow you because they know that this is someone I can rely on. If this person is now doing this, I will go to them for that service because I know that's part of their personal brand. For all the young people out there, I would just piggyback on the control your narrative. I mean, from a digital perspective, I would say Google yourself. See what comes up. If you're not one of the first 3 hits, then you need to control what the world or digitally is said about you. You want to be up there, you want to be at least, on the first page. If people are going to page 2 or 3, like, you're irrelevant, right? So make sure, and it's terrible if you have a celebrity name. But to the extent that you can, make sure that when somebody Googles you, they're finding something that you're proud of. So curate your LinkedIn page, curate your Flip profile, whatever it is, however you want to be viewed, is how you should present yourself. If you have a business and it's an Instagram business, make sure that Instagram page looks the way you want to be seen. So Google yourself. If you don't see what you want to see, start today and make sure that you become visible in a way that you want your personal brand to be visible.
Thank you so much. So for the interest of time, we're going to move directly into the next session. In case you have any other questions for the beautiful ladies here, they're around, so you can always reach out to them individually. Thank you so much. And don't forget to Google yourselves. Or you can Google me as a sample. I know I'll be number 1 when you Google Nalumansi Angel. So what she said is actually true. Like, be intentional about that. So I'm going to invite Rita Arinaitwe. She's moderating the next session that is about women in digital marketing and advertising. Rita will invite the rest of her panel and introduce them as well. Thank you. In the meantime, there is someone that left the lights of their Range Rover on. UBE 667E.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rita Arinaitwe, and I'm the digital lead at SUSTA agency. And today we are here to discuss about women in digital marketing and advertising. When I speak about digital advertising, I speak with confidence because the agency I work for has won 2 times in a row as Digital Agency of the Year. So in case you're here and you're wondering how you can get online, SUSTA agency is the place to go. So I'm going to invite the ladies that are making waves, working for the top brands in the land, to come and join me. I'll start with Liz. You can join us. Vanessa and Sharon. I'm just going to give the ladies 30 seconds so they can tell us about themselves, because I figured it's better you hear it from them. These are great women. I don't want to underspeak because I believe that you need to hear it from them.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you. My name is Zaninka Lyz Cynthia. I am the head of brand and PR at Jumia. Brand, PR, and engagements, to be real. I am a mother, a wife. I love work. I am actually an obsessive worker, I think. I love to interact with young people because it makes me feel young. And I am looking forward to learning and possibly sharing whatever I can in this session.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanessa Uchanda Tumusime. I work with TPH, the production house, Uganda. We are a partner with TBWA. I'm the business lead there. I'm married. I share a beautiful dog called Coco with my husband. I have beautiful sisters, wonderful parents. I love my work. I love advertising. And, you know, a lot of the time I find myself in conversations where I have to tell people the difference between advertising and marketing, between brand custodianship and PR. So let me hope I'm talking to a crowd where I don't have to answer those questions for the 100th time, but I'll be happy to do so either way. And it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, SafeBoda. Thank you, Innovation Village, and the ladies on the stage. I look forward to a wonderful conversation with everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Kakai. I'm the Marketing and Communications Lead at the Village. I represent the women who are not married here. Yeah, it's, I mean, everybody seems to be taken, but happily single too at the moment. I love marketing. I love communications. I'm passionate about shaping brands and giving them the visibility that they need, but most importantly, reaching the right audiences at a particular time. I love working out. It's an obsession of late. Now we're talking hobbies. I love reading. I love poetry. I love catching up with those series that you binge watch on. That is if I'm lucky. I haven't caught one in over a year. Yeah, working in the startup industry can be an interesting space. Welcome to the Village. Welcome to the home that builds and shapes entrepreneurs and gives them a platform to express themselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ladies. I must say it's an honor to moderate this segment with women who have made it. Maybe just to also talk about me, I'm representing the people who don't know if you're single or not. If you're in that category, you don't know if you're single or not. So, yeah. Anyways, we'll just go straight into it. Today in Uganda, we have a population of like, ladies, we make up 50.5%. But when you go into data, you realize that men are online more than women. And as we are advocating for women inclusive digital spaces, but women online are few. So some of the things we are going to find out today is how can we make it, how can we change this, and how can we sell our different businesses online? Because I believe so many ladies in this place have businesses, you don't know how to sell it. So I'll go to the first question and I'll just open it to the panel. How do you guys think we can leverage digital communications to ensure that women's voices are heard, their stories are told, because we have so many women who are underrepresented because they are not online. So how can we make sure that women actually, their stories are heard online?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. One of the things that I've noticed with women in business on the digital space is that the number is growing, which we're grateful for. It's mostly in the retail space, which is exciting. And it also allows them to present their character, their excitement, their ambition within that space. When we go onto Instagram, we see so many shops and spaces owned and run by women, and that's exciting to see. What should encourage the rest of us, the rest of you, to continue to build that demographic and not be part of the statistic where it says we cannot do, is the digital space is so open. It's actually quite interesting that we should be having a discussion about equality on digital. Digital allows us to do whatever we want, however we want it. So remain encouraged by the fact that you can do anything. There is no template where it says use capital letters, make sure that your first picture is your face, be your own model. The template is up to you. You create the structure, you create the template, create the idea, create the sensation, create the emotion. So it's like free range. And so that's what should encourage you. The hard questions are around finance and, you know, how to create the right model to earn money. But the easy part is just to be yourself and open up. That's what I would say should encourage you to jump onto this. I don't like to use the word bandwagon, but I'll go ahead and use it for the sake of saying join the rest of us in the digital space.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add to what she has said. One, I think that if we went online today and just looked at maybe, you know, not looking at numbers, but looking at basically, let's say, influencers, you'll see that majority of them are actually ladies, right? The only thing that, for me, I think is lacking is the quality of conversation that we have as women online. So I think that we need to get into a place where we educate ourselves more and also position ourselves to be more knowledgeable about things that actually matter, other than things that are just for pleasure, things that are for fun. And the other thing is when it comes to, I'll give an example. Today I was asking someone at our workplace, Jumia, I was asking, do we actually know how many women vendors we have on our platforms? And interestingly, they said we cannot actually tell how many women we have. Reason being, you know, we do not collect data on sex. We only collect, you know, your name and, you know, your business details and all that. And so we do not see sex, right? But the interesting thing was that my colleague said when they try to reach out to someone, let's say their name is Grace. Grace is like, you know, a transgender name, if I may use that word. Anyone can use it. Could be a guy or a lady. It's a unisex name, yeah? And so what happens is you call, even if it's a lady that you're calling, a man will pick that call. So I don't know whether it's an issue of we the women know what we want, but we don't know how to do what we want. So in the end, we'll go and maybe register the business and then leave it to the men to run it because, I mean, why suffer? Yeah, I think we also have that mentality of why suffer. And I also think that we need to advocate for each other. Like someone on the previous panel said, we really need to push each other as much as we can. For those that are not online, we need to tell their stories, and we need to encourage them to also get online, because I mean, it's a free platform. It's not like you're going to have to pay to get online and for you to be able to share your experiences or learn something new at that. There are even free courses for you to use online platforms to make yourself, to improve yourself or your lifestyle or your livelihood. I think I'll leave it at that.
I think they've covered most of it, but one of the things I would like to add to that is storytelling. It can be a really powerful tool. Very many people assume that to tell a story, you need a lot of equipment, just like the team behind there, but that's not the case. We are in the digital era, and people today connect with emotions. They connect with whatever you're selling, whatever you're doing, or whatever your craft is at that particular time. Emotions are connected. But beyond just being able to tell those stories and highlighting the achievements, it's also important to highlight the struggles. Because for so long, people look at people who seem to have made it online, or the way we craft and edit things, we've become very perfect at doing that and making them looking great. There's always pain and a journey behind that story. So for me, I would advise that even if we're telling stories, let's tell the truth of that journey, because it's that journey that encourages the different women or the different publics to be able to be brave enough to take that journey. Because if everybody's going through challenges to get to where they are, that's the reality of life. Beyond just that, I would like to take us back to what the roots are and what culture dictates. I was listening to the panel earlier, and they were talking about, breaking culture barriers. And that's a real thing, because when you look at the numbers of women who are adopting digital platforms, they are quite few. So we begin to ask the question, how do we, one, inspire confidence amongst them and make them feel worthy of being on those platforms and confident about what they have at that particular time, but also, most importantly, the skilling, the training, and encouraging them to actually attend those to be able to leverage, these platforms that we have. And then, of course, naturally breaking the barriers of women can't do this or that. Those become very critical in utilizing the digital platforms we're talking about.
Okay, thank you, ladies. I think you've covered it all. And what stands out for me is what Liz mentioned. She mentioned something about, as women, how are we using these spaces? For example, why are you on Twitter? Why are you on Instagram? Why are you on Facebook? Are you there to just post, for example, memes on Twitter and run away? Or are you there to actually share, even if it's motivation, to motivate fellow ladies? Or are you there to sell your business? So I think that speaks to it. If we are going to break barriers as women, we need to look out for ourselves and make sure we are doing the right thing at the right time. And which leads me to my next question, which says, what can we do to advocate for digital inclusion, especially for women with diverse backgrounds? Because I'll tell you for sure, before, when I was, let's say, at campus, I used to think like platforms like Instagram, Snapchat were meant for a specific segment, like, how can I be on Instagram? It's for people who have made it. But you realize that these platforms are for everyone. So women who have different backgrounds, different experiences, how can we advocate for them? Is it through trainings? Is it through, how do we break the, for example, systematic barriers and whatnot? I think I'll let Liz take that and we move to the next.
Okay, I think I agree when you say that there are some platforms that seem to be biased towards one gender. For instance, we all, I think, agree that Twitter is a male-dominated platform, and okay, so I think from my end anyway, I see that a lot of conversations, a lot of the sensible topics that I would want to engage in anyway are really driven by the men. When I go to Facebook, I'm going to find, I don't know whether Mama Tendo still exists and friends, but I'll find the platforms where people are, just in vibes, Lugambo, full stop. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything outside. There are very few people that I see doing maybe like, is it Friday Catales, like Amos, where they're trying to push different people to, push their businesses online and sell to whichever crowds they have, whichever followers they have. When it comes to inclusion, how do we get the women online, right? I think it still comes back to advocacy, still comes back to supporting each other, getting them to see the beauty of the platforms that we have, outside it just being a lifestyle sort of platform where you're just talking about, your everyday this and that. But also there are very many free platforms, free courses, again, that you can take. And you can also take time to understand what each platform has to offer and how you can use it to the best of your advantage. To take advantage of the platform to benefit you and your business or whatever you're trying to push out there. I also think that we need to learn from the men, right? While we say that we are going to advocate for each other, I think even the men need to be brought onto the table. And, when you see someone doing something right, I don't even think we should be seeing sex at this age, at this stage in our lives, right? Because at the end of the day, we all need each other. We can't say that it's only the women that are going to make this work. We all need each other. If I see someone doing something amazing, I'm going to ask them, how did you do that? And I want to learn. And I think that we need to encourage other women as well to do the same thing. And also, if you see someone doing something good, encourage them, and then they'll be able to also look for something to add on to what they're already doing to even become better and improve.
Okay, thank you. And I agree, and maybe to add on is we need to also create safe and supporting spaces for women. Like Liz mentioned, I haven't seen something, for example, on Twitter that's dedicated to women.
I've seen the man cave.
The man cave, for example, there's the man cave. Where is the women cave? We don't have that. So that leaves a gap that we need to see how to cover. My next question is about work-life balance. Yeah, I understand many people who registered for this conference. Some women are in advertising, others are selling their spaces on these digital platforms. They have so much going on in their lives. And I was telling a friend that a friend of mine resigned because they needed to take care of their boyfriend. They're like, man, I need to go and focus on my relationship. I was like, how can that be a reason? Yeah. So how can women create that work-life balance and be able to make it in life and also cover for things, for example, they are passionate about or do care about? Yeah, I'll start with, Sharon.
God, I think I would be the worst at answering this one. But I know what to do.
Yeah.
I just haven't come around to doing it.
Okay.
So I'll talk about what I know what should happen or what I think should happen. I think it's important to compartmentalize your life. The one thing I have probably been good at doing is separating the personal life from the actual work-life balance. That's not to say there's no relationships built in the workplace and there is no care and thought process to the people you work with. That's definitely there. When I say I'm probably bad at it is, leaving office late and not balancing the other side of things. But I believe if you compartmentalize, you're able to give attention to those who have family. And I actually, I don't know how they do it, but I respect it. I think it's really, yes. I think for Vanessa, Rita, I think it's brave that you guys do that stuff. But I think if you compartmentalize and you say, when I'm at office, when When I'm at home, try to be home. Don't be like Sharon who carries her laptop home and just continues with where she stopped. But then again, it could be because I'm single, right? Yeah. There is that too. But I really think being able to make sure you give time to everything that's important in your life and be intentional about it, you would be able to have that work-life balance.
Okay, I'll let Liz next. Liz is a mother, so leading one of Uganda's fastest growing tech companies. So tell us, how do you do it?
I'll say that, first of all, for me, the most important thing is to be true to myself and also to be kind to myself. Why I say that is, on the previous panel, we talked about cultural, biases and all that. I am a mother of one. My daughter is 5 years old. And of course, I have come across so many people, whether it's family, friends, asking, Omuza Kodi. That's like one of the worst questions to ask, but, I always find a way of laughing about it. For me, I know what I can handle. That's what I always say. I know what I can handle and what I can't handle. What I can handle at this time is one child. That's the basic number one. Whether it benefits anyone else or myself at this point in time, I am happy having one child, and I cannot push myself to have any more, because I'll know that I'll have to push so many things out of my way just to cater for anyone else's demands of when are you having another child. Two, I rely on very good support systems at home, at work. One of my friends is here, and she's my neighbor, and so thank God for her. Most times I will probably leave my daughter with her if I don't have like a nanny, because nannies are also tough to come by. Trust me, when you get there, Madam Single, you realize it's not as easy as it looks getting a helper or a nanny. And of course, also family. My husband is very supportive when he needs to be there, and when I have to do something, or maybe I have to travel, I know that he'll take care of her, and I have no doubts that he'll be able to manage. But for me, the most important thing is know what you can handle, prioritize. The same amount of effort you put in at work should be the same amount of effort you put in at home. So even in the beginning, I said I'm an obsessive worker. And so that means I put in a lot of effort at work, but at home, I'll definitely do the same thing because I need everyone aligned.
Okay, Vanessa.
Work-life balance was something I definitely struggled with when I had just started working. Not to say that it's something I fully understand now, but both of these ladies have made it clear that you need to be able to prioritize. When you're at work, you're there so that your personal home life can be as best as you want it to be. And so what's going to be important for us, what's important for me is if I can understand what's required of me at work and I can do it well, then let me go home and do the exact same thing. That's easier said than done when the responsibilities begin to pile up, when your expectations begin to pile up. But you have to take a moment and sit and say, okay, what do I prioritize? And a support system is important. My husband has been very instrumental in helping me understand that I need to be present at home and present at work. And that's made me realize, okay, I'm here, let me do what I have to do. Then when I'm home, I do what I have to do. I used to take work home all the time. Laptops, kitchen, you pet the dog, you watch TV, back on the laptop. That is so boring. It's so outdated. When you're home, be present there. The way you're expected at the office to be present there, that's it. So just prioritize and understand that where you are in the moment is where you need to be. So if you're at the office, be there, get it done. If you're at home, be there and get it done. Easier said than done for sure, but let's just be careful about how we respect those different spaces. Respect home as home should be, and respect work as work should be. Yeah.
Maybe can I add? Just adding one thing. The beauty in teamwork as well is very important in enabling us who are working mothers and working wives and all that. Teamwork, and also believing and trusting your team and knowing that they will deliver. And it also goes back to hiring the right people to make sure that they are making your load easier, so that you don't have to be in panic mode all the time. You know that whatever it is that needs to be done at work is going to be taken care of, and your job is basically to, just supervise them and not necessarily step into what they're doing all the time, and then you have so much work on your plate.
True, I agree. And I think one of the things I've learned is working with people who are available is also important, because it's one thing to call up someone. For example, if you have a business and you have an event, for example, someone said they do branding. If you have an event, you need people to put up tents or whatnot, and people are not available, it really drains. But myself, I'm very proud because I work with a very dedicated team. They're actually here. That shows you how they're dedicated to the cause. Fidi, Rona, Damaris, and everyone else. So when we're talking about the event, someone commented and said, but Rita, I want to attend this conference, but I want to find out, how can I make money online? How can I use, because I see you guys are going to talk about digital marketing, advertising. How can I make money online? So I just want us to share with the ladies and gentlemen who are here, how can we, in our previous experiences, could be work or just life, how can someone make money online?
Well, the internet, of course, presents vast opportunities, but the things that come to mind, it's kind of a process as much as we tend to downplay it. It begins with you as an individual. How do you profile yourself and how do you position yourself? If say you're a marketeer, like the team here, what is it exactly that you're saying on your platforms, and how is the outside world viewing that? Because then that will be dependent on me, who is looking to engage you on, should I call you now for panel sessions? There is people who make money of that. Are you a public speaker? How have you positioned yourself to do that? So profiling yourself and being deliberate about it will define how the public views you, but also how different entities and opportunities for jobs puts you in there. Another amorphous trend is content creation. There's different ways of doing that, but most importantly, what are you passionate about? Are you passionate about videos? Are you passionate about writing? And what kind of writing are you doing? Have you found your niche in what it is? Blogging. Now there's that people call, I think, the vlogs. So then you'll find that you're either picked up again by interested parties, and depending again on your type of following, who you're attracting and who's listening, and how the different entities that would like to engage you, say sponsors, want you to be able to do and work with them in that regard. Those are the things that come to mind at the moment. I don't know if Vanessa has something else that comes to mind.
Sure, you're right in saying everything starts with yourself as an individual. How confident are you that you can take the next step? Do you have the right people around you who can guide you in the areas that you don't know? Are you willing to ask for help? Are you willing to ask, how do I start? You know, everything starts with you as the individual. Then you move on to what it is that you want to put out there to sell. Am I confident in the product? Am I just doing this so I can earn money? It's okay. That's perfectly fine. If you have things that you want to sell and you just want to earn money, that too is fine. You just have to be sure and confident in the route that you want to take so that you reach the end. Then you also have to think about, what does it look like when I go live? How consistent do I have to be? What language am I going to use? What images am I going to take? What is my budget? What is my plan? Put a plan in place before you take that step where you go live. I think those are some of the things that are important. There's one of the ladies in the previous session said one of the cultures that Ugandans lack is reading. And I'm going to add that another is writing down like daily private notes. Those are some of the key things you can do. So you could start today and say, my plan is to make money. Let me get this piece of paper and write down my set of steps on how I can move. And you write that down, and then you think about it, and then you tick it off. And then when you go live and everything starts to go as planned, you're like, that's right. I did that because I put everything in place. So everything starts with you. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, for sure.
For me, I'll focus on what are you selling? That I think is very important. Is it a product or is it a service? I think anything at this point can be sold online. What matters is how you position it, and who are you talking to? Obviously, you're not going to sell to everyone that is online, so you need to define who your audience is, and also position your product or your service right. Is it at the right? Is there a price attached to it, or are you doing it for free and hoping that someone will come and offer to pay for whatever it is that you have up on your platforms? Which platforms are you looking at? Do they speak to the audience that you're selling, whatever it is that you're selling to them? And also consistency. You have to be consistent at communicating, at sharing whatever it is that you're selling, be it, I see there's a lady who calls herself Slave Farmer. I found that really interesting. I mean, you would have, I don't think that many people would also be willing to step out of their small corner to do the unthinkable, right? So are you willing to take the extra step to step out of the everyday that we know and push yourself above, what you think are your limits to sell whatever it is that you want to sell and make the best, a killing while at it. So yeah, be consistent. Know what you're selling and what your value proposition is, and yeah, that's.
Okay, thanks, ladies, and that brings me to our last question of the day. We've all spoken about digital and how guys can make money online, and how mine is to ask. I know we work with different organizations. For example, how is your organization empowering women, or do we have opportunities at our different organizations that, for example, women who are here today can benefit from? I'll speak for myself. How my organization has empowered women, it's, for example, women at Zeus are in top leadership. If you ask the finance manager, HR manager, digital lead, they're all ladies. And if you look at our website, our stories are profiled. And that's our way to tell stories that women can actually be great at what they do. We've partnered with different women organizations, the Women Peace Center. We recently launched a project, RTMX, and it was offering loans to women and support. And for example, Friday will be at Uma, the Katale, and we have so many giveaways empowering women. For example, I think Fidi will correct me, I think we have a giveaway to 20 women. If you're a woman and you need to put your business online, is it a social media profile, a logo, anything, we'll be doing that. So I just want us to tell guys how our organizations are supporting the digital empowerment and how they can benefit from it. I'll start with Liz.
Okay, I think in the beginning I said, first of all, let's say speaking towards, the vendor side of business, we don't see sex, right? We give equal opportunities to everyone. What we want is for you to bring your business online and let us help you grow it, right? So I think that is one, at least a platform that we give to women and men, because again, we don't see sex. Internally, I would say that we have equal opportunities in leadership, be it at any level. I think we have a very good divide when it comes to gender balance. And also, I would say that the one space that is actually becoming more and more interesting is where our couriers, right? The delivery agents and the couriers, you'll find that right now the issue that we have with having more, let's say, women delivery agents is that they do not own the bikes, the motorbikes. So it becomes hard for them to, I don't know, of course they would have to go to maybe platforms like Tugende or whichever to, be able to afford a bike. But what we've done is we've created another platform, which is food couriers, where we have actually a number of women coming on board. Yes, we have some women that ride borders, but again, it goes back to, are you willing to overstep the boundary that has been created for society for the woman? We have very many women who would rather, they don't want to ride a bike, they don't want to ride a border, they want to be in a car. But are you willing to be that person that's going to step past that boundary and say that I can actually do this? Because the platform is there, the opportunities are there, but are you willing to take them? It comes back to also a personal question.
First things first, it's very impressive for both of your companies to be very inclusive. So thank you for that on behalf of all women in the room. I've also been very lucky to have worked, I think I'm going to say 90% of my professional career has been with TBWA Uganda. And it's been such an inclusive organization, so inclusive. You do not see the men versus women. Everybody's engaged in discourse. Everybody's engaged in the creative process. As we speak, we have senior account managers, art directors, the production lead at the production house. These are all women. And they're young women. They are very creative. They're very engaging. They speak their mind. So that has not been a huge part of our conversation, in my conversation in my professional career while at TBWA Uganda. So when you ask that question, it's a bit disheartening to know that there are still those situations where men are picked over women just based off of gender. Now in this digital era, we could say pretty much anything on social media. I was sent packing because I'm a woman. And, so we have to be very careful about that. I think what's important is not only expertise and what we bring to the table, but realizing what certain sustainability goals look like. And part of that is having women on the team. Our emotional intelligence is a huge part of how we can have the right type of conversations as an organization. Our sense of creativity is another huge part of why, women should be a part of any type of organization. And just the fact that it's our time. We can't keep saying the future is female and we don't act on it. Okay, so you want to say, so actually the thing is, what does that mean? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. When we say the future is female, what does it mean? Are we saying it because it's a fancy sounding statement? Or are we saying it because we're going to understand what it means and act on it? So many, what was the statistics on female graduates? There are so many, right? I would say in first class more than men. And so as, business owners, as business, management and leaders, ask yourself, okay, if that's the majority of people who've graduated with high honors, why aren't they in my organization? Where can I find them? How do I bring them to the table? How can I talk to them? How can I make them make this business grow and also help them grow? We shouldn't be shy anymore. We don't have time for that, right? This conversation, this panel, the ladies who came before us, they were not shy, right? Sumayah was saying how her dad was like, what are you doing? Come and fix this tire, come and drive this car. She ended up buying 6 cars. We can no longer underestimate women. I think the time for that is definitely long gone. So be fierce, encourage yourself to take the right next step, and don't say the future is female unless you mean it and you want to act on it. And if you don't know what it means, ask, and we can have that conversation. Thank you.
I think one of our excitements this year is that the global theme is around innovation and technology, and that's what the village stands for. We are bold about trying to, scale the use of technology to transform our communities. We understand where we are at right now versus where the market is generally as a country, but we insist on that. Anyone who has worked in innovation spaces knows that there is struggle. And for us, it's equal opportunities for all the ladies at the village. You will come and you will find us rambling, trying to make the ecosystem work. They're given platforms to speak, and they should be comfortable in that. They're encouraged to be comfortable in that. But beyond that, all the activities and the programs that we do always focus on 65 to 70% women. All our calls, all our requests to participate in our different programs, we always look out for women because we know women are the backbone of our communities, but also without their, like she said, emotional intelligence, their wit, their hard work, we won't be able to transform. And everyone knows that the realities of, our socio-economic transformation are leading towards women and what they can do for. So for us, it's deliberate that 65, 70% are women. So when we put our calls out there for programs, for participation in them, we always look out for women. And I tell you, if we do not have enough women, we will make sure we look for them until they're in there. Beyond that, our tech community has developed a community for women in tech. Almost every month we have sessions, activities, mentorship programs happening around that, and we encourage that you join our community. We have the QR codes around the room. Please feel free. Walk in at any one time. You will get entrepreneurship support, business development, mentorship, and most importantly, let's not be shy about it. Like Vanessa said, there is no more time to be shy or to cocoon behind it. Do we understand that it's a transformation process for all? Yes, again, leading back to our cultural norms and where we've come from, but those are some of the things that we're doing in the village, and the partnerships become very key. The partnership with SafeBoda to convene the community was very intentional, and we have many of these. A lot, and so we've created deliberate platforms to be able to give women an opportunity to speak, but also to encourage others to come forward. As a matter of fact, if you are familiar with our creative community, Motive, tomorrow we'll be launching her Motive specifically for women to be able, again, to give them that platform in the creative space for women to be able to raise their voices and also have the platforms that they're looking for. Thank you.
Rita, if you don't mind. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to throw it out there. The production house where I work is currently looking for animators. So when we're having the conversation, we were like, okay, we need animators, people who are going to continue to put work out there that's like nothing before. And, we're looking at CVs, and a lot of them are gentlemen. So, good on you for being creative. But our lead producer, who's a woman, she was like, Vanessa, let's go and search for women animators. Wow, isn't that the hardest thing? It's like needle in a haystack. And we stumbled upon Uganda women animators. If I'm getting it wrong, I'll correct it later. Uganda women animators. And we found that there is a collective of women who animate in the most, I've never seen work like that before. But that is a conversation that we've never had. We would not have even brought it up if a woman herself in her leadership role hadn't brought it up. So that is a lot to think about. You can't neglect a certain gender just because they're not in your face all the time. So don't be shy, be adventurous, go out there and find who you're looking for within women and among women. And you'll find it and you'll be surprised.
Okay, thank you, ladies. And maybe to add on what you just said is, let's be bold about what we do. For example, you did not know about the animators. Imagine if they were using the online space to talk about what they do. So don't be shy, because if you're silent, the world will never know about you. So speak about what you do. Put yourself out there. If you're a musician, record those videos, do Instagram Live. If you're good at speaking, host the Twitter Spaces, and people will find you and give you the right opportunities. So I'll just thank you, ladies. I think we'll open it up to the audience to ask in case they have anything to ask. Over to you, Angel.
Hi, everyone. How is it going so far? Awesome. Yeah. So before we dive into the questions, there's someone that I would like to hijack. Whenever I hear man cave, I hear his name. And he's in the house. And his LinkedIn posts about the topic that we've just had are very interesting. So since we've had very many female voices, I would like us to hear a word or two from Faisal Piper.
Come through, Faisal. Faisal, sit there.
You've hijacked me. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for turning up. For me, I couldn't miss this for the world, because the brands that are behind it, some of the brands that have been very instrumental in my coming up. So that's Innovation Village. Remember the first time I came here, SafeBoda as well. I remember as an influencer, this was one of the first brands to give me a gig. And yes, of course, my boss was here as well. But what I want to say is I love the fact that men are allowed to be in these spaces. And I'll tell you why. I was raised by women, like all my life. I'm the guy, I think, until I reached S5, I used to wear my towel above my nipples, because that's how I used to see my mom and my auntie, and they were just women in the house. So it's until I went to Ntinda and they bullied me about it. And then I went back home, I told my mom, I think I need a dad to teach me men things. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, for me, because she has hijacked me, let me just speak on what I can. And for me, women have been really instrumental in my, not just my upbringing, but all my last 4 bosses have been women. So that's at Pearl of Africa, that was Ann Whitehead. Then I went to Skies, that was Natalie Bitature. Then I'm now at Jumia, and Liz is my boss. So everything I know about influencing, being professional, because people know how trash I was at first. Yeah, like 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't really that good. But every time I would step out of line, there's always a woman there. Not a guy. The guys would just rally you on. They'll be like, wow, let's do this. But there's always a woman there to just tell me, just point the torch in the right direction and tell me, hey, you know what? I remember my journey of becoming a professional influencer was after sitting with Kahil Insights. So Kahil sat me one time and said, these things you do, no one is ever they're not going to take you anywhere. And I laughed about it that day. But 2-3 years later, I called her up. I told her, you know what? That conversation we had is one of the best conversations I'd ever had. And we never used to hang out with Kahil. I had guys who were there who could have told me this, but no one did. So I just want to appreciate today's engagement, because if we could have something like this all the time, again and again, if people could just tell, their stories. I mean, I bet 100% of the people in this room didn't know I'm influential because of women. Yeah. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, he's among Kampala's best influencers. He does a very good job and he's very intentional about it. We are honored to have you in the house. So do any people have any questions for the panel? I'll take only 2 questions. One from her and one from her.
Thank you so much. I'm called Grace. I'm a producer of Chikazi Millet Flour. When we talk of digital, you guys, it is something that is so exciting. I have my shop on Jumia. At times when a customer places in an order at 3 a.m. or at 2, when a customer places in an order, you as a vendor, you get a notification on your email. So at times an order comes in at 2, at 3. Oh my God, you add on a blanket. So it is one of the things that you really appreciate. But there is a challenge somewhere. These digital platforms, they are very good. But however much your product is good, once you've not promoted it, once you've not boosted it, still the circle still remains small. You still get a few people buy your product. And promoting it, boosting it is expensive, it's costly. So you find still you're making small sales on those online platforms because you've not boosted your product. So my question is, how can you support a vendor like me to boost my sales? When you talk of other platforms like Twitter, I once had an influencer like him. But guess what? These people need about 200,000, 600,000. Oh my God, you cannot afford. So you find other people, other producers like me are not scaling up. You still remain in a small circle. So kindly advise. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll also have a question from her and the panel will answer at once.
Thank you, ladies. My name is Barbara. I am marketing. I've been in marketing for the last 13 years. I've worked in the agency. I've worked on the client side with MTN and a couple of other companies. So my question goes to the lady experts. Right now, most of the organizations are trying to adopt digital marketing. Small business owners are trying to jump on the bandwagon. However, the challenge I see is, how do they derive benefit or value from these different digital platforms that are coming up every now and then, and staying relevant, but also achieving the end goal, creating product awareness, building their brand? How are brands like yours trying to educate, train the communities that perhaps your clients are trying to reach? Some of you advertising for MTN, some advertising for Toyota and different brands. Can we get those companies or those clients of ours to ensure that while they're thriving and growing with the digital trends, most of the customers are not yet there? I know MTN has probably a product of devices. I think they give devices on loan. You take a device and pay it in bits. These products should be reaching, or should be, I believe the target is a person in the rural areas. Do they know these products? But if they are to get these products, are they trained on what the value is besides just mobile money? So it's something that you guys can sit and think about, engage your clients, but also as digital experts, are we training the young, budding people in our community, starting from our homes, starting from you go to our churches? How can we give back to the communities by training them on these different things that we have learned and are trying to ensure many people get onto, because digital inclusion is meant to ensure that there's equal opportunities for men and women, yes, but not only in central Kampala or Uganda, but also stretching to the different parts of the country. Innovation Village, how are we getting back to the communities that are far from Kampala, those that cannot come here, but would have interest in growing or skilling themselves on digital? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barbara. So I'll let the panel answer the questions.
Okay. I'll take the first question and probably tap onto the second one. The first one was regarding how we can support you as a vendor on Jumia to grow your business. One, I'll first start by saying, if you want to grow something, you have to also be willing to invest in it to grow, right? Yes, you're not going to find any influencers that are for free. Okay, you might in your circles. They might be willing to do that. But the most important thing is, first of all, you have, let's say you're already on Jumia, yes? You have your product listed, right? You have all the details on there perfectly placed and everything. One of the things that we encourage people to do is give reviews. That is one of the most important things when it comes to online shopping. Unfortunately, as Ugandans, we actually find it very hard to review a good product. We review bad products, right? But we need more people to come up and talk about the good products that they've bought and how, how they can benefit whoever it is that has bought it. Two, the other thing that we do is try and use our social media platforms. So for instance, you're now seated next to him. We know that you're a vendor on Jumia. We're going to reach out to you to come and do some, content around what it is that you offer on our platform. We do that free of charge for our vendors. And every once in a while, because our platform, we realize that people do not want to look at posters anymore. They want to look at relatable content. They want to know that this product is actually there. If it's Ugandan owned, if it's Bubu, we sometimes run Bubu campaigns. People want to actually see the product. They want to know that there are actual people on the ground that bring them onto our platform. So I think that it comes down to, one, if you have a key account manager that you're working with on our platform, you need to engage them to get to us who are in the marketing department, for us to know that you're there and you're willing to invite us to your place, because otherwise we'll keep pushing. We have so many people working in the organization, right? And also we have so many vendors on the platform. Now imagine we have to keep asking for vendors to give us content, right? We need content as well to be able to push our platforms, because we know that our posters are not going to do so much for us. That's why you'll find that today on our platforms, you'll find a lot of humanized content, because we want to remain as relatable as possible, and also to make people aware that these products are actually in the country, they are here, and they'll be delivered just the way they've been ordered for. On digital inclusion, I think one of the things that maybe I should have spoken about earlier is how we engage the community around us to participate in the e-commerce space. So we have a program which is called JForce, Jumia Force, which is a platform where basically we recruit anyone, even you, me, anyone. Okay, apart from me, I'm a Jumia employee, but anyone here can be a JForce member, and JForce members are our offline sales team. So our main focus on the JForce team is that we mainly focus on the ones outside Kampala, because the people in Kampala are literally digitally connected, right? The people outside in the villages don't know or don't own smartphones. They don't know how to place an order online. So we train most of them are youth, but really it's open to anyone. We train them on how to use our platform. We also, of course, sell, I think, the lowest priced gadgets on our platform. So phones, TVs, whatever it is, to make sure that we are getting as many people online as we can. So these JForce members go into these villages, into these cities outside Kampala, and they speak to people, also educate them about, you can buy this online. You don't have to limit yourself to only what is within your community. You can actually get things from Kampala. And this thing, when you buy something from Kampala and you're in the village, it's like you've got it from USA. So people are excited about that, right? So this, it's a platform that is growing for us. It's actually our main focus for, I think, the next 5 to 10 years. We're looking at growing that platform because we understand that the majority of the people are outside Kampala and we need them to come online. And the only way we can do that is by integrating offline engagements to bring the people online as well.
Guys, should we clap for Jumia or what? Huh? Barbara, thank you for asking that question. From a corporate standpoint, because, TBWA, TPH, we have a lot of corporate clients. And in many ways, because we are looking for our customers, because we are looking for the right audience, they are the ones who kind of teach us where to find them. Whether it's TikTok, you find out that the audience for Pulse is on TikTok. So we all come together and like, okay, whoa, what is that? How do we use it? How do we leverage it? And so the feedback on how do we, grab the wider audience, the bigger base of customers, is things like making smartphones affordable, making data affordable. So the moment you have the tools, then you begin to, I don't know if there's anybody here who went for a masterclass on WhatsApp. You downloaded it and you started using it and you're doing pretty good. You got Facebook. Who went for a masterclass in Facebook? No, we didn't. What is important from our standpoint as corporates is to make the tools accessible. Whether it's affordable smartphones, we've seen hundreds of billboards about smartphones and smartphone packages that come with affordable data. We've heard about Gaga weekends. We've heard about Pulse packages. So it's making tools available, and so that when those tools are available to the customer, to the audience, then they can download these things, these apps, these channels, these platforms, the Jumias of today, and they begin to slowly engage with them. It is quite the process. It's easier said than done. But from our standpoint, it's let's make the tools accessible and then let the audience come and, engage using those tools. And we also use them as well. If, for example, Bosco was Momo, and it was a funny ad on TV and everybody was laughing, but then the number of people who responded to it and registered with Momo and began to understand how to use it, all from a guy who had a bicycle on an escalator, So we speak the language, you understand nuances, provide the tools, and then kind of let everybody run free with how they think they can respond to us, while, dropping a few hints about this is what we have to offer. This is what, these are the ideas that we have. These are the products that we have. And you let them engage with us. So from a corporate standpoint, it's about providing the tools, but at the same time, making sure that you're understanding the market needs. You don't want to be, should I say, you don't want to not understand who you're talking to. Putting up a billboard with a smartphone deep down in a village that barely has any road network, that's not a smart move. You have to understand your audience from top to bottom and what their needs are and how you can make sure that the tools on a digital front are available for them.
So then, picking off from where she left off, you asked a question, Barbara, about digital inclusion, and you asked how can the village help solve this. And just last week we launched a new program, the Digital Economy Program, and you will find that the program has been designed to go deeper because it's focused on the last mile user. And for so long, we've realized there's that gap between what the corporations are providing and actually what's within the communities and how they can use it. But before they actually use it, they need to be digitalized. And there hasn't been infrastructure or tools to do that. And that's what the program provides. That's the opportunity the program provides. And so you'll find that it cuts across 4 pillars. One, focusing on the technology entrepreneurs. Those are your innovators here who are building solutions, but they are not working because there's so many applications. The market is saturated in here. The options are to be able to scale that to serve the last mile user. So we'll be working closely with those to refine their ideas, but also support them in scaling them. The other aspect is digital skilling, because there's no way you're going to be able to reach the last mile user or the different target audiences within the sectors of agriculture, education, and the SMEs if they do not understand how to use the digital equipment. And then we have partnerships. Partnerships, at some point, I believe, maybe we'll work with MTN. I assume they'll come if, you know, it works. But, and then the fourth one is the agent network. So the program has been designed to reach the last mile user. We are very deliberate about that because we quickly realized that, listen, and no offense to people in this room, the majority are privileged. You can operate a smartphone, but the majority can't. So we've quickly realized that, and that's what that program is set out to do. So if anybody wants more information on that program, please visit our website. It's called the Digital Economy Program, and there is at least room for everybody.
So much. I hope you've been answered. Barbara, you've been answered? Yeah, thank you so much for the session. We enjoyed. We had a very good time and we're excited. Guys, please note that these people are around so you can have one-on-ones after with them. Thank you so much. So as we get ready for the next session, I can see some of the panelists very excited, very geared up. I can feel their energy from over here, but I don't know if your energy matches theirs. Who wants to share with us what they've learned? I don't know, a word or two. Okay, thanks. 1 minute.
Thank you very much. My name is Joy Impano. You asked someone to share what they've learned or just something. I am in the legal space, so I am a lawyer, but I come from Kenya. I am here on secondment in a law firm here in Kampala, KTA Advocates. And I think as I listen to this conversation, what comes to mind is, even as we think to expand in the digital space, are we thinking legal? I was in a meeting not too long ago and we were discussing the challenges that startups face in Uganda, and 2 things came up majorly. It was legal challenges and tax. And that's because many in the startup space don't think a legal budget is something they have money for. They think lawyers are very expensive and so I will invest in everything else but legal. And you know, the digital space brings in cross jurisdictions. If you're going to market on Jumia or sell something on Jumia, Jumia has presence in Kenya, Uganda, and other countries. So if you're selling something in Kenya on Jumia, surely you need to know some bit of law about Kenya if your products are going to sell there, because what that does is expose you to risk, expose you to litigation. If I'm selling my products in other countries, I've got to know a bit about the law there. And so as we discuss expanding in the digital space, as we discuss taking up space digitally, I want us to also think what that means for your business legally and in tax, because many startups in that meeting expressed the frustrations they had because they didn't know what the law was as they ventured into markets. So as we think of these conversations, I want us to think law is a critical thing to think about for your business as you expand digitally. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As faithful as the Lord is, the moderator for the next session is actually a lawyer, so she'll pick up from there. Guttabingi Doreen.
Thank you. Thank you, Angel dear. Good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Doreen, Doreen Guttabingi, and I will be moderating the next session. The next session is about the role of digital skills in promoting gender equality. So I would like to invite our panelists. We have Natasha, we have Anna, and Catherine. You're welcome. You're welcome to the session. I hope you're all doing well. So before we head into, our discussion today, I would like to first of all thank the organizers of this space because it's the Women's Month. Gender is something that actually comes up because we all know quite well when you get into the conversation on gender, we know very well that women are, because of our social culture, environment, women are actually gender minorities. So today our conversation is going to, focus on the role of digital skills in promoting gender equality, knowing well that the status quo of women as a gender minority. Yes. So before we get into that, I'd like to give the microphone to the panelists to maybe introduce themselves. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I know everyone is tired. I think we need a lot of energy for this session. We'll keep it short and vibrant. My name is Catherine Tulina Kafumbe. I'm the country director for SafeBoda, and I'm very excited to be here this evening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ana Grajales. I'm the country director for Numida, and I'm also really glad to be here. I'll just, in my 20 seconds left, give a short pitch about Numida Technologies, since we're not part of the hosts, but we're very happy to be here. Numida is a digital unsecured lender. We provide digital unsecured loans to micro and small businesses wherever they are in their degree of formality and in their path to be a growing business. And so ultimately, what we are here to do is to provide loans to women-owned businesses especially, 30-day loans, affordable, digital, and very convenient, so we can grow with them. About 52% of our businesses are female-owned. So for the previous panels saying that really women don't have visibility, that they're not really present in digital spaces, we find that's not really true. Women make up 52% of our clients. They repay a few percentage points better than male-owned businesses, and they borrow a little less by 1 percentage point. And we have disaggregated this data very much to understand what the behaviors are. Maybe female-owned businesses are a bit more risk-averse. They're waiting for their next big order before they get a working capital loan, but they are very much strong repayers. They are big players for us in our portfolio and active clients. We have more than 18,000 active clients at any one time, so that's a lot of businesses run by women across Uganda that are in the digital space, that are accessing loans and are being very competitive in how they want to grow our business. And our company reflects that fully. We have 55% of our team members are women and 44% of managers are women. So we're really trying to not only serve our clients correctly, but really reflect the clients we're serving. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Katondwaki. I am an entrepreneur. I am a co-founder and team lead at Wapi. Wapi is a technology company building technology solutions in the HR space. And we are currently running Africa's digital talent marketplace, where we are helping companies, global companies and employers hire tech and creative talent from Africa in less than 7 days. Super excited to be here and looking forward to chatting with you.
Thank you. The clap was not loud. Yeah, if we're clapping, let's clap like we mean it. Thank you. So I'm really glad to be here, to be the panelist for these very amazing ladies. Spaces that have women, for me, feel very safe for some random reason. I don't know. But I won't get into that. So because our discussion is around gender, gender equality and gender generally. And we know that there's many gender minorities, not just women, but we shan't get into those because, we're in the Women's Month. So we shall stick to women. So while we get into that, I'd like to, put it on our panelists to tell us, what does each of you understand by gender equality? Like, what comes to your mind when you think of gender equality?
I'll go first. I think it's an interesting thing that for generations, people have been talking about gender equality, but I don't know if we take the time to really define it. When you think about equality, gender equality, I think that everybody, regardless of their gender, deserves to have an equal opportunity to achieve the best in life and reach their highest potential. I, however, feel like you cannot speak about gender equality without the notion of equity, because in gender equity, then you need to think about the uniqueness in the individuals and how you can provide for a stage or an environment that is conducive enough for every unique individual to thrive and perform at their best and highest level of potential. Maybe if we speak to the women in particular, a woman can be anything. Like we've had it all here through the different panelists that have been here. You can be anything that you want to be. You can thrive. You can take the stage. Certain things, however, are unique. Like if I'm a breastfeeding mother, I will have a need that maybe another employee will not have. Therefore, how do our environments at work support me for me to be able to still be the best that I can be in my workspace? So in a simple way, that is what I think about gender equality.
Thank you.
I think I have little to add on because this was quite comprehensive. It's more amplifying and agreeing, really. We're talking about equality of opportunity, of access, and ultimately we know from studies, from experience, from the most successful companies that having diversity of perspectives and experience and gender and background and age and disciplines makes teams more successful. So women have a key role to play to make a team more productive, to give different feedback, to represent the clients and the end users, to help,
so to speak. So I think the discussion should be more on equity and, creating processes and systems and an environment whereby the uniquenesses for both genders are not becoming an excuse as to why one is thriving more than the other, but instead create systems and environments where we empower the other, because they both have, unique contributions to make to the positive, growth of our businesses, our ecosystems, our societies. So we should be creating systems where both are then empowered, to contribute to our systems, equal access to opportunities, promotions at work, the skill sets that are there to be learned, and really a thriving environment where both can compete favorably.
Yes, thank you. You spoke of something to do with, not looking at it in the sense of equality and, considering equity, I think that begs the question of intersectionality, yes. What works for whom may not necessarily be the same that works for someone else. What works for a woman in Europe may not necessarily be the same. It begs to, the question of the environment in which we are, the social cultural norms, and, the spaces in which we are. And I think a lot of that influences the conversation as a whole. So, and now we have one uniting factor, the digital space. One time we were talking about a global village. At first I didn't understand it, but obviously later with research and all, I understood that a global village is basically the virtual space, yeah, that brings someone from the US, virtually in the same space with someone in Rwanda, with someone, in Europe. And now we are all relating, regardless of our circumstances, regardless of our beliefs, and, regardless of the spaces in which we are physically, we are now on the same, probably not the same in essence, but we are, we are on the same level ground. Or maybe the ground needs to in fact be leveled. That is, in as regards maybe social, social backgrounds, together the cultural backgrounds, and even gender. And so because the conversation today is about gender, I'd like us to, get into, how we've, talked about what gender equality is, yeah, and what comes to your mind when we think of it. So I'd like our panelists to think about how they perceive gender equality and what the status quo is, as opposed to, what your beliefs are, and yeah, maybe relate it to what the status quo is in actual, in actual sense, so that it can drive our discussion, to, the equality discussion that we're trying to get to. Thank you.
I think in terms of the status quo, honestly, for the longest time, we've been fighting for empowering women and trying to empower women. And that has a bit been of such a rabbit hole, because then there are people who are coming up and saying, okay, we are fighting so much for the women, and then, for example, leaving the boy child behind. And now we are having more empowered women who can then not live with the men, right? But they forget that for the longest time also, before this, the women had been oppressed for a very long, long time. And that is why the fight for empowerment has also been like really, really huge. So in terms of the status quo, I think we're progressing, because, very many programs and institutions have identified that, hey, now we need to empower the woman, but also not leave the man behind. Now there are digital spaces, there is technology. Technology can be, used in so many ways and also leveraged to create ideas. And the beautiful thing about ideas is that there's no label on an idea that it's for a man. An idea can be owned by anyone. And once it has been possessed, it can then serve both genders. So I think the status quo is definitely shifting. It has been like that for the longest time, but I'm happy to say that there is progress. At least, women are accessing the internet more. They're getting into the digital spaces. They're getting into entrepreneurship. The percentages could be low still compared to the men, because the men had dominated that sector for the longest time. But at least now we are woke. We are getting woke. People are, making programs to make, for awareness and, bring us up, train us. Women are starting to program, women are getting into digital spaces, design, data science, things that were predominantly known for men. So I think the status quo is definitely changing, and I can say there is light at the end of the tunnel.
I think we're all believers in that light at the end of the tunnel. I focus a lot less on the status quo because I often don't have good data for it. And instead, there are perceptions of women are less likely to own businesses or to hustle or to be ambitious about their careers, or women are more likely to give up and sacrifice themselves for their family and their partners. or all of these perceptions, I think there is truth to them. What I like to measure is progress. When Numida started keeping track of how many of our clients were women that owned businesses, we were at 33%, and we are now at 52%. And so in that sense, I know there are many perceptions. I know there is a lot of truth to them. There is a strong reality. There are very real challenges that women face. Maybe it's a mindset, or maybe it's the company that I'm in, but we really focus on understanding a particular problem and looking at whatever gaps we find as opportunities. And that is one thing that I have taken very much as a woman, understanding when I face a challenge, trying within that to find the opportunity, and whether that is the fact that whatever I'm facing, whatever decision I'm facing, whatever I'm seeing friends and colleagues that are women really struggle with, get into the mindset of understanding within those gaps the obstacles, the challenges that are maybe structural, or they're just this particular instance, really looking at, as women that maybe we face all of these perceptions, where do we find that opportunity to be Jumia's #1 women merchant, to be SafeBoda's like leading women manager? How do we come to that mindset? How do we rely on our support systems to ensure that we can tap into that? And that's what makes us advance towards that light, ultimately, in my view.
Maybe speaking more to it, I feel like this is a journey that we have been able to move, but we're not yet where we're going, but we have moved really a long way. If you think about the culture, like if you think about us 25 years ago and what a woman in Uganda was able to do and what they're able to do, is a total transformation, so to speak. If you think about our education system, I wanted to do maths, but I couldn't do maths because simply, why are you bothering yourself with maths? It's not for you, do something else. And I loved it, but I couldn't do it. But that was then. Today, the conversations have changed. My oldest daughter is going to sit as senior 4. And when we sit for the career guidance conversations, they're different. She's very empowered to understand that her journey is leading to A, and these are the things she needs to do to be able to get there, which are opportunities that we probably didn't have back then. So I feel like the journey is in the right direction, but there's a lot much more that needs to be done. If I think about then my caretaker at home, it's interesting to find that she could not send a mobile money transaction of her salary. And I thought she was joking, but when we sat down, she could not press the *165. And because of that, someone had been taking her salary for 3 months. So, and she's working hard so she can enable her kids to be better. But the digital space is not really working so well for her. But there's an opportunity. Like if these conversations keep on happening, for us in this room, I want to believe that we are quite privileged, the fact that we can sit here. But there are so many people out there as well that need to get supported to appreciate the value of the digital space.
Thank you. Catherine has mentioned something that I think we tend to forget. Someone from the earlier panelists talked about privilege, and quite a lot of times we view things from our level of privilege. And so sometimes it is difficult to reconcile the fact that some people are not like us, yes. And so I think I'd like to relate to that to, the question you've begged of, what about that woman that does not have the privilege? What about that woman that has not been availed the opportunity? What about that other woman that has, does not know how to use digital skills, that does not know how to, operate online and virtually, and how the whole system works. Yes, Anna mentioned something about, you know, people saying, oh, women are less likely to, you know, be less likely to hustle, less likely to keep down a job. And, you know, when you think about it and you look at the history of the world in general, realize that women are the actual producers. Men simply own the means of production. Like, men simply own the means of production. He owns the factory. He's not going to work in it. In the African setting here, they'll tell us, oh, the father is the breadwinner. He simply owns the land. Who is going to till the land for the food to come? The man is not going to go hunting every day. So you find that the family is going to eat, you know, the things they're going to feed on. You find they'll be feeding on, you know, the grown food, like here in Buganda, matoke, you know, the groundnuts. It will be rare. It will happen, yes, but it won't be a norm that, oh, every day they're going to eat meat, but every day they're going to have a meal. And who has put that meal on the table? The woman. Who is nurturing the children? The woman. So women, in fact, do the actual production. They're more likely to hustle. They simply do not own the means of production. And it is true the status quo has changed. And it is good to actually acknowledge that and see that we've actually taken a stride from, you know, where we have been to where we are now, and it's really important to acknowledge that. But while we acknowledge that, I've realized from your, you know, your conversations that it is also important to acknowledge that woman that we are still leaving behind, because to be honest, some people are still stuck in, you know, the ideals of the past. Yes, these families are up to today that genuinely do not educate women. They do not educate the girls. So you realize, like you gave the example of your help at home, who could not, you know, who did not know how to use, you know, that digital space, did not know how to send mobile money, so her money is just going. So that begs the question of what digital skills, what particular digital skills do you think, what role do you think these skills have played in, you know, fostering equality? When you look out there and see the skills you have as a woman and the skills that, the digital skills that other women have, as, you know, in the space, how has that helped them to, you know, come to the table? You know, they talk about the glass ceiling and the table of men. How has that helped the women, you know, break the glass ceiling or come to the table of men, like they call it?
Okay. Maybe we should start from what exactly digital skills are, right? So digital skills is really an ability to manage information using digital devices, using digital communication platforms, and leveraging and having the ability to use those tools to then manage information, data, or run whatever operations you're running, right? So being in that space, one, you would definitely have access to data. Digital spaces or digital tools are then also technology tools, which enable you then to, once you have the data, and then you can, you know, come up with ideas or improve ideas that you have thought of for a problem that you have seen in the society, right? So what does that mean? That takes us back to the point that I started with, that ideas can be owned by anyone, and once they have been possessed, they can then serve all communities, right? So for me, I think the first and most important thing is those digital skills, something as small as what Catherine mentioned, right? Someone having the ability to use their mobile phone to send money to their, you know, families, to pay for them, to pay for their children's school fees, things like that. Knowing that you can actually support your family without having to wait, you know, for the other person to support you because I'm a woman and now I can't own a phone and now I can't choose it, right? So it starts like that, and then access to data. And then once you access data, for people that are within, you know, the tech space, you then start to learn, for example, what are the jobs that are going to be, you know, available in the next 10 years? How can I then get the skills that are going to help me keep relevant in this ecosystem, to help me as I grow in my career? So for me, and starting from like the last mile user, or, you know, the people that are down there, and someone had earlier mentioned that our roles as women that are already in these spaces is to then hold the hand of the person that is not, right? So we can start with such things, you know, like having, even can just start as a conversation, having conversations with these people and letting them know that, hey, you don't need to spend all this transport to go back home to, you know, pay for your school fee, for your kids' school fees out of the so little salary that you have been paid. How about we get you a phone? Maybe we can have a payment plan, or if it's someone under your care, and then this is how you operate. Write down the USSD codes for them, and then eventually, once they have the phone, they'll later learn all these other things. You know, then introduce financial tools to them, to teach them how to manage their finances. It can be something as basic as a notebook, you know, drawing columns and writing what they have spent and what they have received. And then later it can progress to an Excel sheet and things like that. So I think, one, it starts from us holding, you know, the hands of these other women from an environment as basic as our homes, or really the people that are under our care. And then eventually they can access these digital skills that they need to be able to improve their livelihoods.
I want to kind of piggyback on this idea, though, because ultimately we have here 3 women leaders in their organizations. And I think on one hand, yes, we should all be trying to be part of the support system, teaching if it's our housekeeper, if it's our neighbor, if it's our friend, to bridge that digital skills gap. But on the other, as women of privilege, as women in positions of leadership, we have the opportunity also to be of service to this cause. And this is where digital skills, yes, they start in being able to access and own a smartphone and use mobile money, but it keeps going towards understanding your way around a laptop. And whether it's Excel or Google Sheets or Google Suite or the digital spaces of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, continuing further, really, as technical as you want to get, whether you are in an actual tech role, or you're in digital marketing, or you're in product, or you're a software developer, or you're a business owner, really understanding what the digital skills are needed for where you want to go. And this is where I don't think we need to all become digital experts, but we need to really understand where do we need to go, or where are we aiming to go, and what digital skills can help us get there. And this is where the women in my organization especially can be significantly more efficient, because they type faster, they analyze data better to inform their decisions, they scope out the problem correctly, and they can problem solve using digital skills. And so this is where I think a lot of the audience here is less the woman or the person that doesn't understand or have access to mobile money. And I imagine more people interested in how they can plug into this cause and not only advance themselves, but also kind of pull with them their networks, their community, their direct colleagues, friends, etc. And so I would be very interested to talk about that as well, as what is our role in our organizations to bridge the digital skills gap in favor of more diversity, more inclusion as well.
Again, if you think about just speaking to what she's talking about in the organizations, I've been fortunate to work usually with young talent that's fresh from school, and of course seeing the digital transformation over the years. About 15 years ago, it was totally different. You usually came from the university and you were accessing the computer for the first time or thereabouts, and you just had access to like our small phone, if at all. Right now, the stage is different, and a lot of the people have at least received some access. But interestingly, there is not enough appreciation of what opportunities they can achieve through the digital space. And having worked with this talent, like Anna said, I think as ladies in leadership, as a gentleman in the leadership positions, trying to open the eyes of the teams that we work with to the opportunities out there, to how they can better themselves and their skills using the digital space is a very important thing. We cannot forget about the culture differences and how they impact us, even up to today, that I may have been able to go through school, but maybe the opportunity I had to access information was different as opposed to my male peers in the family. Therefore, by the time I come to work, my esteem levels are not the same. So I need some boost. But luckily, we are there as the leaders. They're able to look at Anna here and see she's made it. Natasha has made it. Kathy has made it. How do we help them understand how they can get there as well? And also, there's a lot of information on the internet. There are lots of people who've done amazing things, and today we have access to that. So using that digital network to build that esteem, to build that woman, I think is very critical.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we've all spoken about a number of things, you know, the role that the leaders have to play, the basic skills that we actually need. You mentioned something about not needing everything, not needing all the skills, because not everyone can be an expert, but you need the basics. You need the basics. How do I navigate this space? Am I just going to be blank when I get there, when I get a phone in my hand? I'm just, you know, you're not even curious at all. And that is quite characteristic, actually, of so many people, especially women, that have not been, you know, given the same opportunity like the men in their communities, in communities that communities that are still, you know, highly oppressive, you know, that still uphold, you know, those, you know, oppressive systems of patriarchy, you know, capitalism and all of that. It's a highly capitalistic world, but it especially affects minorities like women, because women, to be honest, with our backgrounds are, you know, gender minorities. So we realize that not enough people, like you mentioned, Catherine, that not enough people have actually appreciated, not enough people have appreciated, you know, the digital space. So many people have not yet learned the use of technology, and many others actually shun it for so many reasons. Someone's afraid, some are afraid, some are thinking of the consequences they'll have, especially when you look at oppressed women. They're thinking of, you know, what will happen if my husband finds me with this phone? They'll think that I'm, you know, trying to get out of the marriage or something like that, or I'm getting too powerful for them and all of that, or I think I'm better than them. So it poses, you know, a bit of danger to them. So with that acknowledged, I would like to ask the question of how does the absence of digital skills foster gender inequality and inequity?
That's a great question. As you were speaking about it, I thought about an experience I had with somebody about 5 years ago. I did employ this lady, and she had only studied up to P7, and she had so much disbelief in herself and lack of self-worth, to the point that she thought of committing suicide. And I got very curious about her. Long story short, 5 years down the road today, I kind of interested her. Well, she was quite a clever person, just that she hadn't gotten the right exposure. So she then got very curious about people like me. How have you made it? How can I be? And she used the power of the internet to train herself. Initially, she was teaching herself with my daughter then. And now, today, last year, she sent me about 15 books that she had read, 15 online books. And we're talking about someone who only went up to P7. And she's got about five plans ahead of her in terms of her career aspiration. So looking back to the issue of gender inequality, if this person hasn't gotten the opportunity to be in a space where she can see herself differently, then she will never have that worth. So we need to always, be aware of these levels, even in our workspaces, even when we think that the people we work with today are just like us. They are not. Everybody has a unique thing that is holding them back, and we need to kind of pay attention as the leaders in the community to pick up these inequalities, these little esteem or lack of esteem issues that could stop somebody from being the best that they can be. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I also wanted to share about exposure in terms of the question that you asked about. Because many a times the people we become or the aspirations we have are so much determined or dictated by the communities in which we live, the people we see, or like generally the communities we are in, right? Or the people that raise us or that we look up to. So imagine a situation whereby there is absence of the internet and the digital tools, and then there is this one young girl who is also in a community where, for example, women are not allowed to have phones, women are they're not allowed to work, for example, or they're not supposed to they're not supposed to go to school, right? So in such a situation, you'll find that this young girl is going to forever be oppressed and they won't even know better, right? Because that is all they see and that is all they know and that is all they are exposed to. But look at a girl who is in such an environment, but luckily they probably have access to the internet, right? So they may not have someone in their next proximity to look up to, but they'll get the information they need from the internet. You know, they'll see a one Catherine who has, gone up the radar in her career. They will see maybe a skill they need to do, maybe to become a software developer, like so and so, and they'll probably get interested and take it up, or they'll get role models off there, and then that will inspire them to then have career projections, or learn a thing or two about where the world is going and what they need to do in order to stay relevant. So I definitely think, someone being in a space where they do not have access to the digital skills or the internet, and also being in the predominant society or the cultural biases that we have grown in, is definitely not a good place to be, which makes the internet and digital skills really, really crucial.
So we've talked about self-esteem, we've talked about exposure. Definitely, I think adding to that is also mindset. I think we are all where we've reached, really failing multiple times, reinventing ourselves multiple times. And this is one thing we talk a lot about at Numida, is having a growth mindset, of not being afraid of putting in the effort, not shying away from making mistakes and failing, but using those as opportunities to learn. And I think you have to have a lot of courage to come from a situation from oppression, from difficulty, and be able to break out of that, for sure. And so I think it's a little bit of a recipe like magic. But I think ultimately we're all every single day having the opportunity to learn something new, to teach something new to somebody else, and to pave the way, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you can support or mentor somebody, whether you can teach them how to use mobile money, whether you can point them in the right direction when they ask you a question. And I think really we're talking about tapping into that freedom and opportunity of the internet, of absolutely like all information that you can access, to really make marginal changes in our lives, but systemic changes, hopefully, as we add up in this bigger movement and this bigger journey to really bridge the gap and close the digital divide, find equity and equality across the genders.
Yes, thank you. When you talk about all of that, all of the points that we've raised, equality, equity, exposure, you mentioned something about, when you're oppressed and you do not know better, it becomes the norm. You can't even advocate, you can't even fight because you're just there. You're just there, probably satisfied or disgruntled, but you haven't seen anyone that has, done better. So I think that begs the question of how can these skills, digital skills, change the narrative for people like those that have not been, exposed, that have not got the privilege of information, that have not known better? How can the narrative change for them? How can these digital skills change the narrative for them?
I think digital skills definitely have a lot to play in exposure, like I shared earlier. So changing the norm, for example, if maybe you learned a tool today, right, that is helping you at your workplace, and then maybe helping your productivity, helping you plan better, helping you achieve more in a shorter period of time, you would probably, it would help you to focus more on the more important things and not spend a lot of time on the repetitive tasks, right? Now that eventually trickles down into your productivity and what you're achieving, and then the goals of the company, and then how you are being productive as an individual, but also what you're contributing to the company, right? There will definitely be other people looking up onto you, but you're also growing in your career as a person for the people that are looking up to you, but also in the entire value chain for where you're working. So, and that's for an example of a person who's already privileged, so to speak, and they are already in the ecosystem in which we are. So you see that it is, giving growth, but imagine that person is also supporting someone that is maybe below them, holding their hand, right? This person is going to look up to them like the lady looked up to Catherine. They'll probably also learn something. When they learn something, they will know better. And so they will know not to be oppressed. And so they will know that I can actually earn a meaningful, I can make a meaningful, living out of, for example, learning this, which is going to help me get this job. And then I'll probably be able to do something else. So I think it definitely helps us from a point of personal growth, but also the more you learn, the more you get exposed, because when you learn something, you're then eager to know, okay, how can this help me to then achieve better? If, for example, in your achieving better, you've probably identified a problem and you've decided to create a solution, you're then going to check out what other solutions in that space are doing that is exposing you better. You're knowing what value, for example, value proposition you can bring in that area, and then definitely adding value in a way and trickling that down to the people that you're supporting. So I definitely think it's really more about personal growth and how these digital skills can then help you to propel yourself to the next level. And then the more levels you go to, the more you know. And definitely, I don't think such a person can be oppressed, or they would definitely know where they need to be and how to get there.
Maybe more to that. I think sometimes I find that the digital space was created to make the woman better. Like, speaking about myself as a mother, a wife, an employee, there's everything happening at the same time. Now, if I'm to speak at that place where there's so much to do, but then digitization is an enabler. Like, it makes your life easy. Like, things that you needed 3 hours to do, you can do in 2 hours or 1 hour because of digitization. If you're privileged, if you have a bit of means, you're able to, use some digital gadgets to cook a meal. Traditionally our meals take 3 hours. Yeah. Today with digitization, we can cook in an hour, and that's different. And our level of adoption for that is very important. Coming down to the workspace normally, I think the digital space is very important for every employee to use it as an opportunity to learn. Yeah. And most importantly, to have the right mindset for learning and to seek to want to be better, so that every day they seek the internet for their growth opportunity, because there's so much you can do on the internet, so much you can do, but what choices do you make intentionally to say that I'll spend 2 hours on the internet. If I have to go to TikTok, what's the value addition to me? How is it going to make me a better person tomorrow? And we use that space so that you can learn every day. Things like there are online classes every day. There are audio books, even for someone as you are maybe moving on the road.
2 digital skills that you can debate how digital they actually are. I assume I'm talking to somebody of, I don't know, maybe 22 years and older, that is thinking about their career, maybe in digital or not, maybe in technology or not, maybe in startups or not, maybe in their own business. I think about 2 things. I think about data, whether it's data analysis or using data for decision making, and I think about experimentation. Because really, no matter where you're working, even from agriculture all the way to a corporate, I think these are 2 skills that can be very digital and can be a big differentiator in your career, no matter where you are, whether it's an entry-level position or an internship, all the way to CEO. And so this is where, for example, going back to our lovely Jumia merchant, experimenting on how much I advertise and when, and seeing like, okay, maybe advertising on Tuesdays gives better results and I can save my money on Sundays. But I can use my money smartly and in the right time to maximize results. And so there you're experimenting and you're using data, whether it's trying to do payroll faster and experimenting with a new tool or process and really tracking the time it took me. And so that's how I can learn, and next time I do it, it will be easier. That's where if I am a salesperson going to the field doing door-to-door marketing, I can think about experimenting in how I target people or what my pitch and my script is to make a sale, and actually be learning about that and keeping track of what different strategies work better. And so this is one thing where I think no matter who we are, how our digital presence looks like, what our role is, where we are located, what our starting point is, I think being able to think about data points and experiment are 2 key parts about advancing in whatever it is, your career, your business, succeeding over time. And it definitely goes back to exposure, to the mindset, to being intentional about it. If you can find an organization where learning is a part of the business, where you are encouraged to gain skills, digital and not, so that you have a support system, you have people pushing you, giving you feedback, as Faisal was saying earlier, so that you are going somewhere, you are succeeding, you are learning over time. But definitely think about the skills that are needed for where you want to go, whether it's selling your business or whether it's getting a promotion, and make sure that you're owning that journey as much as possible and using whatever tools are available, digital or not, internet, your network, to make sure that you can be an active agent in your journey.
Yes. When you spoke of experimenting, I remember that thing we learned in primary school about the Eureka. I don't remember what experiment it was, but I remember the teacher explained that, oh, this guy kept trying, and then when they finally got an accurate result, they screamed, oh, Eureka, I got it. So I think everything that we do, yeah, because there's always a first time. So a first time is ideally your experimenting time, yeah, because you can't just, just go and boom, you're good at it. It's like you have to experiment and then, learn over time and finally get it all right. Yes. So when we speak of these skills and also acknowledge the fact that not very many people, have these skills, how and can access them, yeah? When we think about the privileged woman, yes, the woman that is not privileged, the woman whose hand has to be held, does not have the same, the same narrative. So this will bring us to the question of how can these skills and tools be made accessible to, these persons that do not have them readily available?
I think speaking for people who already have access to the internet, there's so many free resources that are available on the internet. I think the people that have the privilege to access the internet just need to know how to use the internet in the right way and how to spend their time in the right ways. For, fresh talent, people that are still in school, as institutions that are in training or institutions that are in placements or corporate bodies, we have a role to play in awareness and career guidance, letting these people know that the future is digital. You can't do things manually anymore. It takes a lot more time to achieve results. This is what you can learn in order to, have relevant placement in a few years to come. And this is how you can do it. And then this resource can lead you to another. And then make these people at least have an idea about where they can find these tools, and then they'll go and find them and then make use of them. Definitely for people within the working space already, there are always advancements with the tools that we use at work, with the skills that people need to know. So it would be nice for, people to be intentional about periodic, refresher trainings where they train people on these things, product management for tools that are relevant for the kind of work they do and things like that. The internet definitely has a lot of resources that are available for us. I think we just need to be intentional about having it as part of the things we do to make people aware of these tools and how they can make good use of them.
Maybe speaking again to our work environment, I think as people in the employment area, we have a very good opportunity to kind of facilitate this journey for those that are not as fortunate as we are, or who don't have a lot of access to information that they would want to have. In our different environments, I think if you think about what Anna does, they're providing financing, 30-day loans, whatever they are doing is really helping to reach that difficult person. And day by day, that journey is improving for that person. They can now know that they can use this financing for ABCD. They can, and with that financing, tomorrow they can think about better things. If you think about our SafeBoda, it's about every day when we have the digital spaces, how do we use them to speak to those people who are not thinking about the value they can use, yeah, or they can add with where they are. Like if I'm a woman at home, being empowered to know that I can access a motorcycle on loan as a housewife, and because I can access that motorcycle on loan, tomorrow I can take some trips, maybe in the afternoon or in the window when the kids are at school, so that I can add value to the family. Now, those outreach programs can help to facilitate this narrative on improving the digital transformation journey. So I think it's very important that we are very intentional in our workspaces to see that we have initiatives that help those that are not as aware get to be aware. Then for the people in the workspaces, to push for curiosity, like making sure that every day the people are challenged to be better than they were yesterday. People are challenged to think beyond what they were thinking about yesterday and get curious about what there is out there that can improve. When she speaks about data, there's so much more that you can do within just by playing with data, and you can know whether I should try or I shouldn't try this initiative, or if I tried it, what does the data say? When we did it 3 months, what did we learn from it? And I think pushing that curiosity, forcing everybody to be to be a data miner is great to take us into that space.
I think the main point that I would add there is really ultimately what we want as individuals is to advance, no matter where we're coming from, right? And so here is where at Numida we are very committed to giving working capital to micro and small businesses. However, we have a few requirements. They must have an Android smartphone, they must have mobile money in their names, and they must have some kind of business. That is where we start. No matter what that business looks like, whether it is a very small duka shop, whether it is a clinic, whether it is a driving school, whether it is a high-end children's fashion shop, we will try to serve you wherever you are on that journey, whatever that looks like in terms of your digital skills, your digital needs. For everything else, we are really hoping that government, advocacy programs, NGOs, MTN is reducing their fees such that more business owners, especially female business owners, can have access to a smartphone, can have access to mobile money, and can get their business funded with Numida. So there is a clear starting point for us. It doesn't mean that just because we find a business that has those very basic requirements that we have solved this problem. It is an intractable problem. There is 1.1 million micro and small businesses in Uganda with different levels of informality, and we only have 18,000 clients right now. So we have a very long way to go. We are relying on other people handling the last mile, the people that are most oppressed, the people that need the most support. However, we are very committed that as soon as our most basic requirements are met, we will do whatever is in our capabilities to design the simplest product that is most intuitive and doesn't need hand-holding, to get the most affordable interest rates we can give as a company that truly matches this person's risk profile, to be able to meet the customer where they are on their journey towards formality, towards a bigger business, etc. I don't think we can solve all problems at the same time. I'm sure SafeBoda is very much prioritizing what problems they are solving so that we can be sustainable organizations. Personally, as a woman of certain privilege, of a leadership position, having the ability to have some impact, immediate and through my organization, I think it's very much about having the commitment to keep people growing, to bridge the digital skills gap, to give feedback to people that I work with, to ensure that they have access to learning and development opportunities, rotation programs, projects that push them to grow, to test their skills, to the responsibility they can handle, push projects to really see what they can accomplish. And I think that's the main way that inside and outside of our organizations, we can have very clear and concrete change.
Yes, yes. I think in your discussion, you've covered the question of stakeholders, which was ideally supposed to be our next question, but because we're running out of time, she has talked about the fact that there's different parties that, have a role to play in, achieving this equality that we're looking for, even when you speak of digital spaces, like you mentioned the government, you mentioned advocacy groups, you mentioned organizations and institutions like, the one you work with. You mentioned the fact that SafeBoda is also solving a number of problems. I'm sure that's the same thing at WAPI. So we shall not get into that, that discussion. But we do recognize that there is a number of stakeholders and each of them has a role to play. And I think each of them actually knows the role they actually have to play. That's for sure, because, these are the same conversations, the same difficult conversations that we keep having over and over, especially when it comes to the Women's Month. Yeah. So as we conclude, we shall go to the question of how, in your line of work, have you worked towards advancing gender equality, and how do you intend to go forward, you know, with working towards advancing the same, especially in, you know, technology and digital spaces?
Okay, very interesting question, specific to SafeBoda. I think I'll speak specifically to SafeBoda. I like to think that in SafeBoda we have tried really to make sure that there's no divide between the female and the male employee. And if you look at the ratio, it is about 4-5, which is very good in terms of split. When you look at the leadership space, I believe the leadership team at SafeBoda has been very, very intentional in making sure that ladies in the space of growth get the right growth that they desire. And what that does is it gives inspiration to the other ladies in the team, to the other members in the team, not just even the ladies, everyone else knowing that I can also be this person tomorrow. And that has been very intentionally done. When we think about the community of the drivers, we know that the border rider is predominantly a male driver, and we are looking at spaces to see that we include the female driver. So we do run a program called Women on Wheels, which trains, appreciating the uniqueness of the female driver, trains these female riders into skill set required for them to be comfortable on the road. So we give them the basic training on the motorcycle, safety on the road, if they have any digital challenges, give them access to the phone, give them access to the asset financing that they require for them to get started and to get them on the road. And we do make sure that this voice is also spoken about by the staff, because in the cultural environment that we are in, you will find that even for a female rider on the road, it is likely that the male customer will not feel very comfortable taking that border. Maybe I would ask the people in this room how easy it would be for them. So we want to make sure that people accept them. So we encourage them to speak. They're in the digital space every day. We have those pilot lady drivers on the digital space speaking about their experiences and how that has helped enhance their livelihood. And because of that, a lot of other women have been inspired to join this space. And they can't do this alone, because most of these women will be married, yeah? So the husbands need to include them. They need to accept that it's okay for this lady to be a motorcycle rider and earn a living, because it adds value to the family, and also include them in that space. So we've done, it's a journey. I wouldn't say we are where we want to be, but it's a journey that has started. And for the ladies that we have in this space, they're very excited, they're very empowered. So it's for us to continue adding our voice to it every day. And like Anna said, as leaders, we continue to ensure that every person's value is sought in their unique place, and we seek to make sure that the teams that under our management are empowered every day. We seek to see how they can be better tomorrow, and made aware of what they are good at, what they can get better at, so that tomorrow the journey for digital transformation can happen.
Okay. One of the fundamental objectives as to why WAPI was started was to create a space that gives access to meaningful earning opportunities for young people in the digital and tech space. Access that is biasless, right? Not based off of where you're from or what your gender is or who knows you, but entirely based on what digital skills you have and what value you can be able to add to an employer or a business. So in doing that, we are every day in our, vetting, profiling of this talent, encouraging women that it doesn't matter if you're a woman. If you have learned your graphics design, if you're a UI UX designer, if you're a software engineer and you have a portfolio that can speak for you and you can develop a mobile application, please come, let's vet you, let's profile you. There's an opportunity for you here and you can actually get matched to this opportunity. So every day we are inspiring these women that the skills are here. This is what is going to be relevant. These are the jobs that are going to be here in the next or how many years. And you need to be able to learn this if you're to be able to earn a meaningful living for yourself and support your family or the people that are under you. And no one cares if you're a woman. Just have the skill, be good, stand out at what you do, and you're going to be able to, get into this space. So every day in everything we do, we're inspiring women to take up these spaces and get involved in these skills.
Please send them to Numida.
Definitely will.
From the Numida side, really what I'm thinking about right now is the fact that 44% of our managers are women. I want to see that stay the same or go higher. And these are very ambitious young women that will soon or eventually, hopefully, some of them get married, have kids, really define what they want their life to look like. And throughout all of those changes in a productive person's life, to really maintain them, like not lose them for whatever reason, keep them engaged, keep them motivated, keep them growing, and ensure that they have a very strong support system. And so this is where I'm thinking about going forward, to make sure that the gains that we have made in our leadership, we retain, and this becomes part of who we are longer term as an organization. So the fact that we're already 55% women in non-managerial positions, same. Operationally, it means that we need to have very good maternity cover. It means that we need to have very good handover programs so women can take their maternity leave and fully focus on that, support them when they're coming back. And so this is all handled by our people operations, but thinking very much involved, how do we keep our operations inclusive for women? For dads, we still have more than the legally required parental leave. But regardless, like, how do we contribute and fit in to the bigger societal, socioeconomic, cultural environment? And how do we make sure that we're shaping Numida based on our company values, based on the organization that we want to be, and the gains that we have made, we are retaining them longer term. And so that's very much what's on my mind as an organization, to ensure that we stay very much inclusive in every single step of the way and all of our decisions for our operations and our company, beyond the fact that we are trying to keep and retain women-owned businesses and deliver a product that really fits their needs, that is intuitive and simple to use, that is affordable, that recognizes and understands their particular needs. And we are adjusting our tone, our messaging, our terms and conditions, our penalties, all towards that, being very aware and cognizant about the fact that sometimes women are more risk averse. Some businesses are more sensitive. Different sectors respond differently, different regions as well. And so thinking about our women, from customers all the way to very key internal team members and contributors, from end to end, that we stay a business that is inclusive, progressive, and trying to very much push the boundary of what we think is acceptable or what we think is enough in Uganda, but really like rethinking things entirely, to be a lot more ambitious, to be world-class, to redefine what we can look like as an organization into the future.
Okay, thank you. from what I've picked from all our panelists here, we're all working to have an equitable workspace, you know, putting into consideration our social cultural, you know, attitudes, putting into consideration the particular needs that women have. You know, there's that thing they talk about, the special maternal function of women. I think that is in Article 32 of the Constitution. There's, you know, that encourages, you know, when you're talking about workspaces, you're talking about the environment, you're talking about the society, you have to put into special consideration the special maternal function of women. That is such an important thing, because at the end of the day, you know, we have to multiply. Yeah, we cannot, yes, we cannot run out of human beings because then, you know, we have to keep going. We have to continue the human race. So before I hand over to Angel, who is she? Oh, I would like to thank all the panelists. This was an amazing conversation. I don't know if we have any questions. I'll hand over to Angel for that. But while she comes, thank you. It's been a great honor to sit on this panel with very many, you know, with great women doing great things, especially now that I'm also trying to grow my, you know, career and life in general. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will not take questions for this panel. Do you want to know why? Why? Because since it's the last, you can interact with them shortly after. Yes? Oh, yeah. Anyone here? Oh, you have a testimony. Okay, we'll take his testimony.
All right, thank you. My name is Benjamin. On Twitter, I'm Benji. I am. I took a SafeBoda with a lady. It was surprising, surely. But you know, we gentlemen, however much you have the basic trainings for these riders, they somehow they get to lose their patience. Somehow, somewhere, it's in the human body. But with the lady, they cannot. She was really so patient. I wished I had no trouble, you know. And I don't know why, but I stay in Chanja. But I don't know why every time I order for SafeBoda, I don't get that lady. Maybe professionally, I did not ask for her number, or because I really wanted to find more of this, because it's really a good, if it's an innovation for new people, it's a good one. I really take it on. And I would want to have as many rights from those women as I can. Thank you.
By any chance, do you remember her name so that we can make it happen for you? You don't? At least I remember the one that took me home yesterday. He was called Abbott. And I was so disturbed. Did they forget the L or so? That is why I thought he had the name as well. So thank you so much. It was a very amazing session. Anyone with a questions is going to individually reach out to you. Guys, thank you so much for being with us this far. It has been a long day with very many sessions. And we are very excited and honored to have you up to this time of the day on a weekday. Thank you very much. So we're going to go into the concluding remarks. And then after that, you can have as many snacks as you'd want to have and as many cocktails as you can take. Yeah, so I'm going to invite our director at SafeBoda, our country director, Catherine Tulina.
Like I've spoken so much, like I don't know what else I'm going to say this evening, but ladies and gentlemen, good evening once again. I believe it's been an amazing 5 hours that we've spent here. It's just that we had to stay much longer, and people probably were a little bit tired, and the chairs are empty. But I think we've had a lot of learnings, a lot of sharing that has happened this evening. We've had interesting topics. The first panel talked to us about the women in the digital space who are entrepreneurs and how they have made it. And we had very great insights, really great insights from there. One important thing that I think stood out for me is to take the stage. As women, let's take the stage. So let's take that stage. We had a second panel that spoke to us about marketing and the digital spaces. I think those ladies were amazing. They had great stories to talk to us about how we can appreciate the digital space, learn from it, and utilize it. And then our last panel, which is fresh in our mind right now that we have just talked about, and how we can leverage the digital spaces. So I believe that this journey is very, very important, and it takes every one of us to make it happen, men and women inclusive, because I don't think that we can make the digital transformation as ladies alone. We need the male people here present. I would like to appreciate SafeBoda and appreciate Innovation Village for making this event happen. We believe that we will be able to celebrate Women's Day in a different space, and that as we go back in our workspaces, every day we think about how we can leverage the digital space to make the woman better every day and tomorrow. Happy Women's Day, happy Women's Month.
Kathy, for those remarks. I would also want us to say a special appreciation to the people that put this together, the few individuals that are here. There is Muhammad over there in a blue shirt, head of marketing at SafeBoda. There is Lawrence. Oh, he has stepped out. He was the guy in a navy blue shirt seated right there. There is Rutiv, Alan, Mark. They've supported with photography, videography, the live stream and everything. There is Ralph and Ignatius from SafeBoda. They're the creatives, the guys behind the artwork that you saw and signed up and joined. Then there's Douglas Chikonyogo right there. He has been supporting, he has been live tweeting during the event. Yeah. And that is the SafeBoda team. There is now the Innovation Village team. Unfortunately, there is only Edward. Others have left. But yeah, he was very supportive. When we reached out, he made the process seamless and effortless. And we want to appreciate their team for that. Thank you so much. Yeah, lastly, there are scanners on the walls for the ladies that would like to join the Women in Tech community, even the gentlemen. I don't know. Yeah, and then we've passed around QR codes for the photos in case you'd want the pictures that were taken during the event. There's a code to scan for that as well. You can reach out to me personally. And yeah, with those remarks, would like to bring this to an end. Thank you so much for coming. And our online community that tuned in on our YouTube, thank you too. Have a good evening. Happy Women's Day 2023. Snacks, in case you'd want. There are snacks and drinks and anything. Guys, before you step out, we have little gifts for you, so make sure you don't move out without a box like this.